and welcome back to Dames and Dorks. I am your host with my other hostess. I'm Nomi, and today we have Epic Mike as our special guest. Yay! Oh my god! I'm not gonna lie, everyone. We were kind of fangirling a little bit behind the scenes of like Epic Mike hanging out with us. Like, oh my gosh, she said yes.
Don't do that. I'm just a dude on the internet. No, I'm not anything special.
He's
an epic dude.
Instead of she said yes to the dress, he said yes to be a guest.
Yeah, that's also very true.
Well, you guys are very nice. I appreciate you having me. I'm always surprised when people invite me to come on their shows. I'm like, I ramble and I yell a lot, but yeah.
No, and that's why we like it. It's like, now we like chaos. Let's bring him on the show, everyone. Yes. Before we continue on our show, we have our lovely, freshly graduate Lily, who's on our show today. Hi, Lily. How are you?
Hey, guys. I'm so happy to be back. I missed you guys so much, but I know I've been like telling everyone in the world, but I just graduated. I got it done.
Woo-hoo!
Here it is.
Congratulations. I saw the pictures and you look amazing,
Thank
beautiful,
so
amazing, super excited and happy.
Thank you. All of my like super blurry pictures because I was too excited to take anything nice.
They were wonderful.
Yes. And now I'm officially a rank higher than Anakin Skywalker. So I am actually a master.
But don't worry, everybody.
You can now sit on the council.
Yes, the council of nurse practitioners. So I can take this joke as far as I can take it.
But don't worry, everyone. She's not going to take out the kids.
Oh, yeah. No. I'm like,
she's going to help the kids.
That's where we're going to draw that line.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much. Everybody that I've ever ranted to that I was all tired. And
no, you deserve it. And we're proud of you. We're so proud of you. Okay. And then next on our panel, we have Dr. Rachel. How are you today, hun?
I'm good. Very tiring, very long week.
Mm-hmm.
I've been busy with work and wedding planning and all that fun stuff. But yeah, I'm happy to be here. There's been a lot happening in news and just clogging up my Twitter feed. So just like when I was trying to figure out topics for tonight, I'm just like, let me write everything down. I don't know how much we'll get to, but it's good to be on this panel with all you lovely ladies and Epic Mike. So we're gonna have some fun discussions.
Well, you got a lot of things on your mind, like, planning a wedding. So that's totally understandable. And grace is given there. So no worries on that one, Rachel. And then our other panelists, we have Magitek Mags. How are you, hun?
I am good. I'm not planning a wedding, but I feel the same sentiment of Rachel here about work. It's been kicking my butt this week as far as everything else. So, but I'm glad to be here. I don't have to think about work. And tomorrow is Friday, and we have a wonderful guest with some beautiful ladies here. So I cannot wait to get into these topics. So
you got it's exciting. And then our resident panelist here, who's always welcome because she also brings chaos into our lives, but it's welcome chaos. We have Sevvy on the panel. Hi, honey. How are you?
I'm great. It's a Thursday, so it's almost the end of the week, and that's always exciting because then that means I don't have to keep working. So one more day.
I can relate to that on a lot of levels on what you're saying. So before we continue on our topics, I'm going to but acknowledge the chat here. We got Larry, our resident moderator as well. He did message me. He won't be able to hang out with us today, but he's with us in spirits. We got Retro Collective, our lovely host, Smooth the DJ, who's always here hanging out with us. We got Tom B here. We got Yarn Rich. And then we have a lot of people active today. We got Gravy D. Everybody's so excited to have Epic Mike here and just hanging out here. We're ready to talk about it. And Risky for a Biscuit, man. Oh my gosh, I'm loving the chat here, guys. You guys are killing it. And Psychotic Mongoose, thank you so much for being here, everyone. But Epic Mike, I met you earlier this year, and that was my first time ever meeting because I've always seen you around. I was like, oh my gosh, that's Epic Mike. And when you sat down at the table that I was at with Dr. Rachel, I was like, this is pretty cool. I'm sitting with the mic.
You guys are so funny. I'm just no, it's nothing like that. I'm just a regular dude. You guys are very, very, very kind. I very much appreciate that. I'm nothing special. I just make a lot of noise. I'm just really, really, really loud. You know what they say about like the squeaky wheel gets the grease. It's like everybody just notices me because I'm screaming a lot, and they're like, "Oh man, I don't want this guy to come after me. He yells a lot." So,
but the difference between you and the squeaky wheel is that we actually love your company. We actually like your insight, your screaming, your craziness, versus the squeaky wheel on the shopping cart. I'm just gonna put it away and get another one.
Okay, well that's fair. Thank you for not putting me away. That would have made me sad. So.
No,
Epic Mike is super entertaining. He is amazing.
Thank you very much, Sevvy.
He could do his own WWE style, narration going on.
Yeah, I've definitely thought about it. Yeah.
And then I just have to ask: is this like the shortest intro that you guys have ever done? Forever,
oh, that's right.
It depends on where I'm at, but yeah, this is definitely on the shorter end. Normally it takes like an hour and a half for most people. Yeah. We just like watch all the rabbit trails happen, and they're like, "Wait a minute, are we still doing intros?" And they're like, "Yeah."
Yeah, that happens so much. I agree.
Yes, I'm like, we have Smooth backstage. That's like, all right, stay on topic.
Yeah, he's our dad, if anything. Yeah, he's like, all right, guys, focus. We're like, okay, we just had a good time talking, and that's what we are about. We're just here hanging out, good talking, and everything. That's why I was like, I'm gonna ask Mike if he wants to come hang out with us because I think he's chill.
I try to be. Yeah.
No, I mean, the one time I played Helldivers with you, I was like, nah, he's super cool. I mess with this guy. He's funny. He's great. Another thing too, you kept checking up on me after I fell down a flight of stairs at MegaCon, seeing how I was doing. I was like, I'm okay.
You make it sound so casual, like, oh, I just fell down a flight of stairs, no big deal. I'm like, yeah, but like, if I fell down a flight of stairs, I'd want people to check on me. I'd be a little sad if people were like, oh, you fell down a flight of stairs? Cool, bro. And then they just move on. I'd be like, yeah.
That's true.
Particularly because yeah, I stubbed my toe yesterday, and you're like limping around on crutches everywhere. You're like, I fell down a flight of stairs, and she's just walking around regular, like normal. And occasionally she's like, oh, it's okay. My knee's just swelling a little bit because when I fell on the stairs, I smacked it on like 16 stairs on the way down. It's no big deal.
Oh my gosh.
It was funny because Dr. Rachel was the witness too.
Yep, I tried to catch you, but I was too slow.
Yeah,
I already told
it's
Nomi that I'm gonna monetize her injuries. So anytime that she injures herself, she's gonna come to me, and I'm gonna make money off of her.
Yeah, you can. I will give you 100% like permission to do that because you also have the brains for it too. Like diagnose me. Did I break my leg?
But Lily, if you decide she needs physical therapy to go through all the mental trauma of it, send her to me afterwards.
There you go.
This is how people look out for one another.
Yep.
It's called
synergy.
Synergy. Yes. This is like the team in the real world right here. In medicine, yeah.
But how exactly did you fall again, Nomi? Because I remember as a joke you said Tabitha pushed you, but because she wanted to see your feet. But I know that's the joke. I know that's not the true story, but that's all I remember.
Yeah, so the joke was Tabitha pushed me down the stairs because she didn't want me to win the bet. And so she's like, well, there's no bet if Nomi's not alive. So that was the joke. But really how I fell down, I was wearing like 3-inch heels with my costume at MegaCon. And I had my hand on the guardrail, trying to hold my balance. But I think it was my right foot that missed the last step and caused me to trip and fall forward. And I do remember Rachel like reaching out, trying to stop me. And then Real Joe Rosie trying to stop me too. And then next thing you hear is that on the tile floor. And I just start laughing for a good minute. And then I got back up like, I hope no one saw that. But at least 20 people saw me fall down the flight of stairs. So yeah, it was me being clumsy. And I'm clumsy in real life anyway. So it's nothing new. It's casual.
Those heels were insane.
Yeah, I was surprised I was able to walk around in those shoes. But I'm glad that when I got out of that costume, I had like my my Chaco sandals, and I was like, all right, I can handle this because I can't do that anymore. And I'm already a tall person in real life, so those heels made me like 6'3".
Oh Jesus.
Yeah,
That's
so
tall.
It's pretty rad.
yeah, and I'm not graceful. So just imagine like this massive person just falling down, and yeah. So people got a show out of that. Speaking of getting out of a show, everything, we're going to start our show this week with something that came out earlier this week, which would be Square Enix, and announcing that its new plans to aggressively pursue a multi-platform strategy. I know, Mags, you are a gamer, and this was something like you had a major interest in. Can you share a little bit more about this? What's happening here?
Well, as anybody's been aware ever since, back in the days of SquareSoft, they went from Nintendo to PlayStation, Sony, and pretty much ever since then, they've been pretty much exclusively any new games they came out was under the PlayStation name, which is the Sony brand. Well, as of recent years, as we've all been noticing lately, the gaming industry has not been doing so hot, money-wise. They've been hemorrhaging money for a variety of reasons. Some of it, a lot of it is stupid agenda, but it's also quality. The quality of the games do not match the pricing either, and the exclusivity. I can't say that right. Whatever. The exclusive contracts, so to speak, to be able to release new games through Sony is also hurting their brand as well. So I think this is a good move on Square Enix's part because they are also hemorrhaging money. I'm pretty sure the Final Fantasy crew had a lot to say in this decision making because they've lost a lot of money on Final Fantasy 16, which was a major project for them. And of course, Square Enix also had to shut down the studio for Forspoken and other things. Not that necessarily it was because of the exclusivity. I can't say that word.
Exclusivity.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a hard word to say, guys. I am not an English major. I like math. That's what I
mean,
like.
as long as you're not Beardo saying waffy instead of waffle.
Well, at least I'm not saying proficial, although that is
I'm
kind of a
proficial.
cool word.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they have, I think there was Square has their contract up with Sony, and Smooth can correct me if I'm wrong. I think because we've talked about this a couple, almost a week ago. This we were very we were prophets talking about this in a group chat with some friends, and the contract is up for the exclusivity deal and October 15th. I actually have, it's so funny. This is a funny thing. I actually have that date in my phone because I was going to celebrate that I was hoping that Square Enix would say, we're not doing this anymore. We're going to be on Xbox, on PC and all this other stuff. So for me, I think it's a major step forward in the better direction. However, they need to really look at, the quality of their games. And I know they recently are really shutting down a lot of their headquarters in North America, and the Western world, so to speak, because they're losing money. And I think Square is finally waking up to the reality that, not just the quality of games, but the censorship situations and, the agenda driven stuff is not really helping them in this case either. So, for me, as a longtime Final Fantasy fan and noticing the decline in the series itself, I am really happy with this. And I think it's a good idea because there's a lot of PC gamers out there like me. And if you're releasing a game like Final Fantasy 16 and I'm not getting it until 18 months later, of course, the hype is no longer real anymore. Mm-hmm. So it literally kills the momentum of games if you just keep it to those deals. So
that's so true. And I think more people are.
I'm so excited for this. Actually,
I think more people are playing PC games. I know, I just don't play PlayStation anymore. I mean, I still have it, but I just only play PC games. And I know I've looked to see if they have any of the fantasy games in PC, and it's not there.
And not only that too, because I mean, I remember when the console wars was a major thing. I think when the PS2 came out, like that was I would say the peak or the height of when that stuff was going on. Because I remember even reading a web comic that involved like four different friends, and sometimes the occasional Sega fan or whatever. But it was always a funny comic to read back in the day. But it's like, I haven't had I think the latest PlayStation product, and I grew up on NES, SNES, PS1, PS2, PSP, Game Boy, PC. I never really had an Xbox, but you can get the picture that I really don't care as long as I get good quality games and have a good fun experience. Unfortunately, with these exclusivity deals, you're not getting the customers that really want these things, especially when what was it about a couple years ago when PS5 was released? You couldn't find a PS5 anywhere. It was like a big meme thing where it was like, oh, I found a PS5 out in the wild. It's like a shiny Pokemon shiny or something like that. It's ridiculous. So yeah. And like what Amanda was saying, sadly, a huge part of why I got PS5 was only because of Final Fantasy VII. And if you're getting the console based on the game, that's cool, but then it's kind of like the subscriptions thing. Why would I, for instance, keep a Disney Plus account because I'm not seeing the quality of content on there? It's just no longer there. So I think this is a smart move on Square Enix's part. They're obviously contracting a little bit because they have lost a lot of money. And I can't remember what was the percentage, but of profits, but yeah, they lost a lot of money. And I think this is a good smart move on their part. I think they need to start looking at releasing worldwide. And I know people have said, because I've seen this on Twitter, oh, but they have the pixel remasters on Steam, so you can get that on PC. And I'm like, that's not the same thing. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about new releases and the major games that they're trying to put out there. And I think this is a smart move. They need to be able to get their gaming products out there. And honestly, if you cast a wider net on your market, hopefully they'll start listening to more and more fans in the process. But anyway,
well, it sounds like you're very passionate about it. So definitely, yes, like you are the consumer, you want to see the results.
For me personally, I think they need to go back. They need to go way back to basics, the Square Soft way. I'm tired of Square Enix as a whole, so they need to fix their crap. But and I'm a Final Fantasy fan, so I'm saying, and I've been playing Final Fantasy from like the NES days, so they need to do a better job. Do better.
I think they need to keep in mind that they're not living in the same world that we were in when PlayStation first came out and it was going against Xbox, right? Yep. Because the biggest selling point at that time, because PCs were not that good, the biggest selling point at that time was PlayStation has better graphics, it has better RAM, it has a better processor, and that was the biggest selling point for a lot of games. But since then, there has been like such a big delay in a lot of games coming out, to the point that PC games are equally as good. There is not that stark difference anymore where you had to be forced to buy a PlayStation or an Xbox in order to get a quality game. You can get quality games in PC anymore. So being exclusive only to PlayStation doesn't work anymore.
Yeah,
it worked.
This is an instance where you actually do need to change with the times and keep up with what's popular and what's changing around you. Yes. So the fact that they're actually making this change, I mean, yeah, if they're like losing a whole bunch of money, they're smart enough to go back and be like, okay, we kind of need to rework all of this. We need to see where we're losing the money. We need to listen to the fans. And this is an instance where, yes, you do need to kind of change with what's happening and keep up.
It's not necessarily it's not changing in time and in the times of quote unquote the mythical modern audience. It's more in terms of technology. PCs, like Sevvy said, have caught up and have far surpassed any consoles, because consoles are pretty much set in stone, whereas with PCs you can adjust accordingly to graphics or what have you. And a lot of times too, with a lot of these newer consoles, some of them are not even retro. What's that phrase?
Retroactive
Retroactive play or whatever it is. I'm like, that stinks. Like, at least on my PS2 that I still have, I can play PS1 games on that still. But I still have the PS1 too, because that still works. But it's like, it's stuff like that. And you don't need to be doing the exclusivity deals anymore. It's it made sense back then because the SNES did not have the capacity on their gaming cartridges to be able to hold the kind of graphics for, like, say, for instance, Final Fantasy VII. There was no way Final Fantasy VII could look like that on an SNES cartridge. There would be no way. Final Fantasy VI was literally using the full cartridge to its maximum limit. There was no way that Final Fantasy VII could fit on that. So it made sense.
Yeah. That's true. And I mean, and the thing too with a PC, if you know what you're doing, and then Dr. Rachel, if you need help finding the parts that you need to make your computer better, just let me know, and I can, and just I'll DM you separately. But basically, it's so much cheaper for you to buy parts and then install them in your desktop, or even with a laptop, to make it better, to make it to like a gaming setup that is going to be pretty decent, and you're going to be able to run games now. It's way cheaper to do that than to just go out and buy a PlayStation. And I really like what Mag said, because it is true. The Xbox and the PlayStation are sitting at a standstill. Just like the iPhone technology is sitting at a standstill. Like the camera options and the video options, there's only so much improvement that you can do at that time. But it's way cheaper to make your computer to a point where you can play all of these games, by just changing the RAM and the processor speed for your RAM. That makes such a big difference. It's way cheaper to do that than to go out and then buy a PlayStation so you can play one game, buy an Xbox so you can play a different game. When in PC, you can, most games, they're cross-play. So you can just play any of those games in a PC.
Yep. And we've definitely proved it over the years with emulators that we can play these types of games on our PCs with that sort of stuff. And High King is correct. Thank you. I'm sorry. I've been dealing with math today, and words are not there for my brain. So backwards compatible was the word. But Mike, you're a big gamer.
Yeah.
What I don't know. I'm a Final Fantasy fan, so I'm probably that like 5 times.
I've played I haven't played a lot of the newer Final Fantasies, but I played 1, 2, what is it? The 1, 2, 4, 6. I just recently started messing around with 7, played 7. Okay. I also played 15 when it came out and really enjoyed 15. So there were some gaps in there.
Right.
But part of that is because I've been an Xbox guy for a long time. So I didn't even have access to some of those games to play them. And I was also, growing up, I really enjoyed, Kingdom Hearts.
Yes.
Loved them. I played some of the other ones too. Like I played, I think, Dream Drop Distance, and then like 365 over whatever. I played that a long time ago. So I've played some of the other ones too, but a lot of those were PlayStation. So I had to go over to other friends' houses to play them because I didn't have PlayStation. I had an Xbox. And it's funny because I think it was 2020, either 2019 or 2020. I think it was 2020. Lo and behold, Square Enix worked out a deal where they dropped a bunch of their Final Fantasy properties on Xbox, and they showed up on Game Pass, so you could play them for free, and then some of them you could buy. And I completely jumped on that opportunity when that's where I played 15 and stuff. I was really excited, and I noticed a lot of other people were really excited about playing those games, and they had never touched them before. And it's weird because back in the day, I think the console wars made more sense. You had 2 different franchises, 2 different companies, and they had different focuses. They had different brands, and so you could kind of pick your poison with who you wanted. Because Master Chief, Halo was one of the biggest first-person shooters on the market. There was really nothing like Halo out there at the time. Call of Duty was big too, but they were still kind of gaining some of the momentum. Till they are what they are now. But Halo was huge. You have Gears of War that was massive. And these companies kind of just split the difference, and you had good on both sides. So you could either buy both if you had the money to, or you pick one, and you were happy with whatever you were playing. And then, obviously, over time, Microsoft kind of lost out on that with a lot of other issues that they did and a lot of kind of bonehead choices that Microsoft made over the years. But I think part of it is, there's the console wars and the idea of exclusivity sometimes drives people away when they go, well, why would I play this now? It's been out for years. That doesn't feel special to me, or I'm not interested. But as we've seen now with the, and Sevvy made this point too, I know Mags was talking about this with PCs. One of the other big things that we have now that we didn't have as much of before is streamers. There's just so many different options for streaming. And so now when you see a game like, some of the Final Fantasy games and stuff drop, or if a game gets remastered or, remade, there's a massive influx of people wanting to play that. And if the only way to play it is on a PlayStation, you're missing out on so many people. At least to me, if anything, PlayStation, if they want to keep everything console-wise on PlayStation, they don't want to go over to Xbox, which I think is a mistake too, you should at least be putting things on PC at the same time. Because you're going to have a lot more interest. You're going to have these streamers that only are on PC that are going to be playing your games and trying them out and influencing other people. There's just money being left on the table, and it doesn't make any sense. And I know a lot of people will use the argument, well, Nintendo's been doing it forever, and Nintendo has been, and Nintendo makes money hand over fist. But could you imagine how much money Nintendo would make if they dropped a Pokemon game on an Xbox or on a PlayStation or on a PC?
Yes.
Part of the thing is that Nintendo has is they've had unique, interesting, original IPs that nobody else has any kind of, like, we've never seen anything like. Recently we finally have Pal World, which is kind of an answer or kind of similar to Pokemon, but even Pal World isn't putting up the numbers that Pokemon games do. But it's like for the PlayStation, or Nintendo has built this library of games that work with their consoles, that work with their brand, that everybody wants to play, and that's why Nintendo makes all the money that they do. And often their consoles are cheaper than regular consoles. They make them very accessible to regular people to jump into, and everybody can kind of identify. They kind of have a unique situation on their hands there. Whereas PlayStation and Xbox and stuff, people don't realize they're still relatively new. A lot of those things didn't come out until we were kids. Whereas Nintendo existed before I was born. So it's like, yeah.
That's
so
true.
I just don't think it's necessarily an argument, but Nintendo would make a lot more money if they released some of their games on other consoles, but I also think that would take a hit as to what happens with their consoles. So Nintendo's kind of in a weird, situation where if we put this on PC, people will stop buying the Switch. No, thank you. We'd rather just keep it on Switch,
Yeah.
Whereas PlayStation and stuff like that, those gamers are growing up. They have more money. They have more interest. They're getting their kids into gaming, and a lot of those guys will end up buying PCs for work or what other reasons. And if games that they want to play aren't on PC, they may just find something else to do. I'm not a huge fan of console exclusivity. I used to be when I was younger. Now that I'm older, I'm like, man, it would be nice to be able to play this on my PC. I'm not going to buy a PlayStation, or I don't want to have to buy a next gen Xbox because I already have a PC. So why would I do that? But the argument that I make a lot is, guess what? Xbox releases simultaneously on PlayStation because Microsoft is also a PC software company, so they already had this figured out.
Yep.
So
They could easily do something what Square Enix did for the Final Fantasy crew for the pixel remasters of 1 through 6, where Nintendo could go to Game Freak and say, hey, how about Gen 1? Let's do like a little bit of a remaster of that and release it through Steam. They could easily do something similar to that, where they don't have to do every retro game, but something to that effect, where it still entices other people, kind of grabs attention from other people from other platforms. But it's they don't have to do all the newer games or whatever, but at the same time, that might be something that they could be looking into. But I understand where Nintendo's coming from, because right now Nintendo is laughing. So it's they're owning this space. They know what they're doing. They know how to appeal to not just they know how to appeal to the wider audience. They know how to appeal to all ages, and they know how to appeal to generations. So I think that's what a lot of these consoles are lacking in this regard. And honestly, I'm okay with Square Enix going multi-platform, because I think that's where they need to go. Clearly, with this PlayStation names, I'm not going to butcher that name. Sorry, guys, but and as new CEOs and succeeding Jim Ryan. So to me, having to see a traditional Japanese name there makes me feel better about the situation. But it's going to be a long way, because I think there's a lot of recovery there. I know on the Final Fantasy front, Yoshi P is trying to turn things around from the Final Fantasy franchise, because they've the last several games or releases have not been the greatest at all. So as far as money wise, so it's a matter of trying to correcting course and getting back to the old, getting back to the charm of things. And who knows, really with Final Fantasy Remake and Rebirth and all that kind of stuff, and 3 different installments for one game for almost $150 plus. That's crazy. That's a little bit too much. And if you're going to go multi-platform, at least you can lower the price a little bit better to be able to fit the needs there, because you're casting a wider net to a bigger audience that can pay for that. So
yeah, and I think that there's an argument to be made across the board too with gaming prices in general, because we've seen gaming prices go up, but
yeah,
I don't think that it would be a stretch to say, if Square Enix announced that they were doing a Final Fantasy remake that they were releasing on PlayStation and PC, and it's a complete remake from the ground up, it's bigger than it was before, there's a bunch of new content, and they wanted to charge more, yeah, sure there would be an argument, there would be people that are maybe upset about it. But if you package that as like, hey, we're doing this and we're going to charge full price, or maybe we're going to charge a little bit more because of how big of an undertaking it was or something, but I think it feels disingenuous, to split a game that people have already played, they already know the story to, and maybe that's why they added some of the new storylines that they did and kind of deviated from the original game a little bit. But I think it's disingenuous to say, hey, here's the same game that you loved and remade and stuff like that, and then you find out the game's actually like part 1 of 3, and we might not even get part 3 till like 2025, 2026, maybe farther than that out. It's like, okay, well then, we've already seen it jump console generations. We already, they had to remake the remake so that it fit better on next gen consoles and stuff. It definitely feels pretty predatory, and I think that definitely sat poorly with a lot of fans. I know other people can say all day long, well, it's a really good game, it's amazing, like that, but I'm like, yeah, but that, to take something that you've already done that's not new. It's like if I decide to remake a movie and I say, hey, I'm remaking, I don't know, Lord of the Rings, and everybody goes, oh, I love Lord of the Rings, and I decide I'm remaking Fellowship, and I make Fellowship 3 movies that you have to go pay, and I don't, there's no difference in the story, there's no difference in anything, because we already know the outcome of the story and stuff like that, and we've already got good movies, because Final Fantasy VII isn't a bad game. It's a good game. People like it. People love it. They just wanted an update to the graphics, but you can get that. If you're on PC, guess what? You can get updates to the graphics already, because people make mods for that kind of stuff. So I just think that there's definitely some weird stuff happening, and I think the problem too is if as a game company you start to make profit be more important than your customers, then you'll start to get issues like this. My hope would be if they decided to get rid of exclusivity and they start popping up on Xbox and PC, that they would try to focus more on making really good quality games instead of trying to figure out how to get more people to buy their stuff. But unfortunately, I don't know that they're going to see it that way. I think they're going to figure out, cool, now that we're here, how can we make as much money as possible through all these guys, and how much can we milk from our audience, and that's kind of unfortunate. So.
I will say this. There have been talks about remakes of Final Fantasy 9 and 6. And I will say this as a Final Fantasy 6 fan. I will be on top of that on that news, and I'll be like, you better not deviate. That's all I'm just gonna say.
I'm worried about the Final Fantasy VI remake. I think
yes, because that's my favorite one in the entire series.
Yeah, I think Final Fantasy VI is the best game of the series. Like,
yes!
I don't even think it's close, to be honest. Yeah. As a writer and a storyteller, I think I have a group of friends. We all kind of agree with this. Like, Final Fantasy VI, taps into like art in a couple spots. There's some like really very like poignant, beautiful moments in that game that you just don't get in gaming. It's beyond just a fun game or interesting characters or a cool story. There's like some really poignant things there, and there's some really interesting themes about humanity and all this stuff. They also did the Thanos ending before Thanos did it, so kudos for them for doing that. But yeah, I think that part of it is interesting, and I think that they're I think them deviating from the original story would upset a lot of people.
Yeah, I will be gatekeeping that.
Yeah.
So I'll be the weird crazy fan emailing and spamming Square. So
I can already see it happening. Well, you mentioned this earlier, Mike, like you only had one console to play like certain games. And then going back into the topic on that. So like we grew up poor. So we only had an X64, but when I saw, and a GameCube as well, when I bought it with my own money. But when I saw Kingdom Hearts come out on PlayStation, like I wanted to play that. I had such a desire, but I didn't have the funds because I just bought the Cube to buy a PlayStation to play only Kingdom Hearts. And I think that to me at the time, I was like, I don't think that's fair. And even now as an adult, like, I don't think that's fair for me to go buy a PlayStation only console. And then not only that, I don't even think Kingdom Hearts is available on 5. All Kingdom Hearts is available on PlayStation 5 if I want to play them all. So
I'm not sure if they are anymore. I mean, I think they're all in a bundle together now, but they weren't for a long time. You know, it wasn't until we had 3 come out that they finally were like, hey, we should put these all in a bundle and let other people play these, you know, because at one point, some of them were on, trying to think. Yeah, I know some of them were on handheld. There was like some of them that were exclusive to like Game Boy, Nintendo DS. It might have been Nintendo DS and stuff. They were scattered all over the place. And I think it was just now recently that they bundled them together because it's like the Kingdom Hearts 1.57682 complete bundle final edition or some like the names are getting out of control. Like they're wild names. You're like, what is all this math on this cover? I don't understand. But yeah, I agree. I grew up pretty poor myself, so you get a console and you get lucky on what games you get to play on it and stuff, because games can be really expensive and stuff. But there's definitely memories that I missed out on. That's part of why I didn't get to play like Final Fantasy 7 when it came out at first, because I didn't have one until later. And by the time I finally started getting into PlayStation gaming and stuff like that, there were other things. I also my mom was like really big tech person, so we ended up getting a computer, and I did a lot of computer gaming when I was growing up as well. So there's a lot of PC games that I played that other people like probably were like, I don't know what the hell that is, but console exclusivity is not cool. And I think we can all look back on it now go it might have been cooler for gaming to not be a bunch of arguments about what console was better, and might have been more fun to like actually just enjoy being able to play with each other. So
and I agree with you on all of that, because like whenever I went with my friends, like, well, I can't play that because I don't have an Xbox. Well, I can't do that or they can't come over because I don't have what they want to play. So it's just, you got to make what you do. But now we're in the age like, hey, like we talked about it earlier, we can move past from the past and come into the future because we have the internet, the magical place where we can all come together and just play together on whatever platform that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's like one of those things like Call of Duty, for instance. I played with my buddies on Xbox for a long time, and then I kind of got burned out on Call of Duty and I walked away from it. And what brought me back to it was when they had crossplay. Crossplay was the thing now. I was like, oh my gosh, I get to play with my PlayStation friends? Holy crap, of course I'm going to play this, or like, crossplay, I think also kind of broke the exclusivity walls a little bit, because people are like, I'm having a great time playing with my friends. So now when games come out, like Helldivers drops, and everybody's loving Helldivers, and it drops on PC, and that's awesome. I get to play with my PC friends. There's a lot of Xbox people that are like, man, I wish I could play this too. Man, we would be playing the heck out of this. So there's money being left on the table, and if anybody that has a business, has ever run a business or worked in a business where you get to see kind of the happenings and the behind the scenes, leaving money on the table is like one of the dumbest things you can do. If people are telling you, yo, if you only did this one thing, you'd make a ton of money, it's dumb for you to look and go, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to make money. I don't like making money. Why would I want to make more money? It's like, come on, people. So
Yeah, no, exactly. And
Drunk's
then
harassing me. He's following me. everywhere I go.
I saw.
oh, I saw that. I was just like,
It'll happen
just-
soon, Drunk 3PO. Okay.
Hey, Jay.
hey, how's it
Jay.
going, Jay? Thanks for coming through.
My favorite,
then-
favorite black YouTuber.
And then we got our favorite person on the internet, Chris Benoit.
Oh
Uh,
Who's the
There he is.
Oh, boy.
well, you don't have to worry about that much, Chris Benoit. So we just gave out a whole massive spiel of like what we could do and what could be done and everything.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for hanging out. But Epic Mike, do you want to weigh in on that? What do you want to give any
What
suggestions?
console do I recommend? I don't know. Probably wireless ones. Maybe a Wii. Wii was wireless, right? Yeah.
Man, yeah.
Let's play. Yeah. Maybe you should get a wireless console. You can, just hold the controller in your hand. You don't have to, worry about anybody getting wrapped up in any cords or anything like that. So
Yeah. Or a Switch too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Switch,
a Switch
yep.
is pretty good.
handheld. Yep. There's no cords there.
Switch-
Anything we can keep you away from cords. That would be a good idea.
And the current Switch could be going, the price could drop a little bit because there'll be the Switch number 2 coming out at some point or something like
It's
that.
true.
So
Oh
you
yeah,
can get
Switch
this.
Yeah.
big
about a
deal.
year, I think, right?
Yeah.
2025 somewhere. I think
Yeah.
March they said.
Now, okay, now this is my ignorance coming out on that, but like, what would be the difference on this one coming out versus one I have right now? Is it just like completely just,
We have no idea.
yeah, okay.
Well,
They haven't announced
I mean,
it.
it's my guess. Nintendo up till now. I mean, I think the Wii runs at 1080p. I think is the top. It tops out at 1080p.
Oh, okay.
And it only goes to I think most games are capped at 30 frames a second. Listen, we're at a point now. I mean, for people, and I'm not going to try to get too technical, but we're at a point now where the Switch is not a very powerful console.
Mhm.
It's a really powerful handheld console, but it's not. It's struggling and showing its age. The latest Pokemon game, the reason it was so glitchy is because it just cannot keep up with how much is going on anymore. So Nintendo was going to have to release something at some point that had more firepower, that had more processing power and stuff like that. I'm guessing that the next console will probably be Nintendo's foray into 4K for the first time. Because we haven't had that yet from Nintendo. They haven't been able to run anything. The Switch doesn't have the ability to do 4K. So I'm guessing that whatever the next console is going to be, whatever they decide to call it, it's going to be able to run at 4K. I'm guessing that they're going to make better handles because they lost a lot of money. I don't have it. My son stole it from me already. But the Wii paddles that go on the side of the console are not very good. And there's a big third-party market for better hands, better grips on the sides. And unfortunately, I know Nintendo hates when people have to do that. So I'm guessing that they'll probably try to make the paddles on the sides better and make it more optimized for gaming. So that's what my guess is going to probably be for that. It'll be like the Joy-Cons. I think it'll be an upgraded version of the Switch, and it'll probably have some unique new feature that we haven't seen before. I'm not sure exactly what that's going to be, but I know Nintendo's all about innovation. I don't see them playing it safe, but I see them kind of just trying to do a better job with what they tried to do with the Switch already.
Mm-hmm. As we listen to Sevvy type, because I know whenever I hear that, I
I
know
was
that's
muted.
Sevvy.
No,
I'm like, oh, there's Sevvy typing. She has some thoughts, everyone.
Typewriter.
no, but I do have to get going. But thank you
that's
so
right.
much for letting me be here. I have March of the Dragon Queen starting in 10 minutes, so I have to run and get over there.
Be around Urudai, you poor thing.
I know. My soul will cry.
Yeah.
But thanks for having me, and good to see you, Epic Mike, again.
Good to see you too.
I'll talk to you guys later.
All right,
Bye.
bye, Sevvy.
Bye,
Bye,
Sevvy.
Sevvy.
Thanks for coming in.
Bye.
Yay. Well, that was like a great chat and everything. I love that everybody's weighing in on the chat. We're obviously very passionate about Square Enix making this move, talking about all this stuff that's kind of getting under our skin a little bit. I don't know, Dr. Rachel, did you, I know you played board games growing up, but did you have anything to weigh in on this?
I mean, I've been a Nintendo gal since the Game Boy. I still have all of my Game Boys, the Advance, the
awesome.
SP. I've got all of them still. And in fact, when the Nintendo Direct came out, I think it was a couple months ago, one of the games they announced was a new Fantasy Life game. And we haven't had one of those since like 2012 or 2013. So I'm very excited. It made me bring out my old 3DS and start replaying that game just so I could be ready for the October drop. So I'm very much in the same mindset as everyone else. I think there was a good time for the console wars. I think Nintendo has been on the ball long before others, long before Xbox, long before PlayStation, and so they know what to do to keep their customers satisfied. They know what to do to keep the games interesting. They make quality games, whereas I think we're seeing a lot of other games dropping in quality. And like Mike was saying, just the arena of games is changing. We have PCs that can run a lot better rather than, like computers from the 90s. They're very different from the computers we have today. So they're going to run very differently. We're seeing this decrease in gaming quality. We're seeing prices of games skyrocket. We're seeing all these companies like Sony trying to, like maneuver their way into smaller gaming companies to bring in the money for themselves and be like, oh, well, now that you have the game, now you need to get our network so you can play it. And that's ruining smaller companies. Whereas Square Enix, I think they have a much better view to be like, hell no, we're putting our foot down. We're going to open up to everyone because we think we should be putting the players first, the gamers first, rather than you companies first. So we're going to open it up. We're going to be multi-platform. And I think that is a very smart move. Will it lose money at first? Yes. But as long as they're making quality games and everyone is able to get them, whatever console, whatever they're using to play games, it's going to benefit in the long run. And I hope more people do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, I would hopefully we can do that because I have a Switch, but I haven't got into the world of Animal Crossing. I need to get into it because I hear it's such a cult, so I need to join you guys too. But I wouldn't be able to do that on my PC because I'm an adult and I can buy my own things now. But I'll get into oh my gosh, what was the game I just said? I have brain farts sometimes, guys. Animal Crossing. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Sorry. It's been a day. But speaking of being a day, we are going to go into the topic. This was just a few days ago that it was released for the new Rings of Power trailer came out. And then our lovely, lovely panelist, Lily, ratioed the heck out of them, compared both of them, and seeing how this trailer just failed tremendously is amazing to me. I don't know, Lily, what do you have to? I'm not going to play the audio because I don't want to be hit with this.
I'm like, I wish I had ratioed them, but it's all the angry Lord of the Rings fans that are coming out of the woodwork again. So this is basically like me and Dr. Rachel. I'm pretty sure that she's got a lot to say about this stuff too. So not only did Rings of Power announce that they were going to be dropping their teaser trailer for their season 2, but on that same day, House of the Dragon decided to drop their trailer an hour later as well.
I bet you they were waiting for that one.
They were. So whoever is in charge of all of their decision making for House of the Dragon and things on Max and stuff, like, good job, because they're the ones that messed it all up for them the other day. So I actually tweeted out because I thought this was really funny. I don't know who else is familiar with it, but like Kendrick and Drake have some beef right now.
So that beef was wild.
Yeah, I've been following that.
Wild. So that was like the first thing that came to mind when I saw this thing happening. I was like, they did not, and they did. So this was their ratio, I think, the first day that they both dropped. And then I think Gary updated it yesterday with the new screenshot. And it's bananas. Like, it's crazy seeing the ratio for Rings of Power. Like, clearly, people do not like this. And I know there's a lot of people asking, like, why are they even making a season 2? People didn't even like season 1, but they're under contract. I think they have to make about 5 seasons or 4 or 5 seasons, something like that. I don't know.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Rachel or
I-
Mags.
Well,
It's 5
part-
seasons. They're
5
contractually
seasons, right?
they're contractually
Yep, 5.
obligated to have 5 seasons. Yes.
And part
Yes.
of the thing is they invested so much money into getting the rights to this and invested so much money, front heavy money into getting this off the ground and getting it running. They have to do something about it.
Yep.
Mhm.
And I will point this out, and you know what? Maybe the season will prove me wrong. But as of right now, watching that trailer, what new stuff is in that trailer that we didn't see in
No.
season 1?
Yeah.
Mhm.
We don't see any real new characters. We don't really. I mean, maybe they're probably going to be new sets and new places, but a lot of the same characters that we saw in season 1. Maybe a few new characters and stuff like that. But as we know with Lord of the Rings, part of what makes it special is how it grows exponentially. Now we get introduced to all these other characters and all of these things that are happening within Middle Earth. I think that they've spent way too much money already on this show, and I would not be surprised to see season 2 not even have the same scope as season 1 because of how little money that they want to invest. They can't keep just pouring money into this hole. So they're going to try to do what they can to cut back on certain things. I think we're going to see a lot less CGI, and they're going to try to keep things more grounded in like people talking. I would not be surprised to see it's more of a CW level show
Yeah.
going forward.
We
So,
can kind of tell with the new wig that they gave Sauron, because we're not supposed to know that's him.
yeah.
He arrived with a new wig.
Yeah.
Well, how do you know it's him? They gave him pointy
Right?
ears and a wig.
Oh my
He's
gosh.
recognizable
The
now.
comments under the trailer are probably more entertaining than season 1 of Rings of
Yeah.
Power.
It's pretty wild.
Oh yeah.
Like, saying ain't so, color me shocked. But I want to say this before I go into the comics, like the comments. This scene just reminds me in the first Avengers movie where they're all like going
Oh, yeah.
around the Hulk, Captain America, Black Widow, Iron Man, and that was what I thought of. Like, but they made it cringe. They couldn't make it cool enough. Nobody are into these characters.
Mhm.
Yeah, nobody gives a damn about any of these
No.
characters. They're so badly represented or just completely made up. They tried to have their own Avengers moment, and Avengers moment works because it's so epic, because the camera shots are great, because the lighting is great, because the costuming are great, because the characters you're invested in. Rings of Power doesn't have any of that. So nobody cares about that.
It already looked really bad, though. The costumes from the
Yeah.
first season were terrible. So I can't imagine that if they're scaling a little bit back on the budget, what they're going to do now. It just...
Oh, they're just gonna make it dark. Like
Yeah.
this, like the screenshot. They're gonna make it dark so you can't tell that the costume was bad.
Yep.
And the CGI is bad.
Yep.
You can even tell in the pictures, though, because there's the poster that came out for Sauron and then the one that came out for Daemon and House of the Dragon. You can even tell just by the posters that it doesn't look like the same level of quality. And even over here on Sauron's side, you can see his costume compared to Daemon's. It looks like they even tried to take a little inspiration from him too. It's just, I don't know, it doesn't look good. I mean, season 1 was definitely not a winner for me, so I don't know if I'm gonna torture myself actually watching season 2.
I mean, you don't want the meat given to you raw, Lily.
Not the same.
Oh
Not
my
that-
god, this even put me to sleep. Like, I wasn't even trying to hate or anything. I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it a chance and we'll see what happens. Like, no, a couple of minutes into like the first episode, I was falling asleep. It was just so
I watch these shows after even napping, and I was falling asleep. They're
Yeah.
just they're so
Oh, yeah.
slow and they're so boring to trudge through. Yeah, and mostly of it, I think the biggest insult to people is just that they're very uninspired. It's not even, I don't think the quality is very good comparatively to the original movies and stuff, but I think it's just very uninspired, and I think Tolkien fans deserve better than that. You know, we deserve inspired, well thought out, deep quality things. And if I would not be surprised, you know, I don't think we'll probably ever get it behind the scenes on all of this stuff, but I would not be surprised to see them, you know, kind of rushing to get this done. But we can watch Peter Jackson go through all 3 Lord of the Rings movies and how much work and time and effort and thought, you know, was put into, and care was put into all of the work that they did in those movies, and it shows. And I think, you know, people thought, hey, this is probably going to be a shameless cash grab, and I think Amazon had every reason to say, no, we really care, and to prove why it wasn't a shameless cash grab, say, no, we're really trying. I think there would have been a lot more grace had everybody went, you know what, it's still not great, or it still didn't need to be told, but it does feel like they're trying. It doesn't feel like they're trying with this stuff, and that's I think more than anything the biggest insult to people, and why it's getting such a bad response. I mean, the marketing for season 1 was terrible. All these like super fans, and then like they're like, you know, like missing like basic like storylines, and missing basic themes for characters and stuff. And them, you know, instead of saying, you know what, we're gonna just talk about what we love about Lord of the Rings, they're constantly taking shots at what is problematic about Lord of the Rings, you know, and stuff like that. It's like, if all you can do is complain about the fan base and try to say, well, the reason that this is being made, or the reason it's going to succeed, is because we're marketing this to the fan base, it isn't problematic. I'm like, I don't think the fan base is problematic at all. But that's not how you win over people. You know what, you win over people by going, yo, we love this, we love Lord of the Rings, we want to do a great job, and we're going to put our best foot forward for you guys, because we want you guys to enjoy this, you know. I think it's a lot harder to do that. Like there's an adage, even if you're not religious, like it's just an interesting way of looking at it. Like there's an adage in the Bible that says, a soft answer turns away wrath. You know, it's one thing if you're doing Lord of the Rings and you're going, hey guys, we're putting this show out. We put a lot of money and a lot of work and a lot of time and effort into it, and we're trying our best to honor Tolkien's vision, to give you guys a show that you want. And then somebody goes, no, I don't want anything to do with your show, it sucks, and you slap them and you're like, no, it's terrible or whatever, versus them being like, hey, you know what, guys, all these toxic fans out here that don't want representation in Lord of the Rings and don't like female characters and all this, and they're like, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, that was never a problem. We never had an issue with any of that in Lord of the Rings. You know, some of the most beloved characters in Lord of the Rings are female characters. So what's the deal here? But it was obvious that it was a cash grab, and it was obvious that the people that were making this didn't actually really care about Lord of the Rings. They cared about making themselves feel good, and making Lord of the Rings look like they wanted it to look. So, yeah.
I don't know, Dr. Rachel, go ahead, Lily. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt.
Sorry. Well, no, that's the thing, because they're not even talking about the show at all. Every single interview, every single red carpet. I mean, all they brought up was the elf guy that was like, yeah, I'm like the first Latino elf or whatever. And you're like, dude, I don't care. Like, yeah. I don't care. You're supposed to be telling me about why I, as a viewer and a fan of Tolkien, should be watching this TV show. You should be talking about how, well, yeah, you know, when I was a kid and I was growing up reading these stories, and like it means so much to me. We didn't hear anything about that from anybody. I don't think anybody on that entire carpet ever said they were a fan, that they read the book, that they were into any of this stuff. And I think it was what's his name? Vigo or something that he had never read the book, but he actually read them before he started playing this character too.
Viggo Mortensen. Yeah.
That he was like, I had no interest in it, blah blah blah, but like I started reading them, and that shows you something, that they're willing to actually look at the source material, and that he actually wanted to do a good job. And look at all the stuff that we got from Peter Jackson. Like, I know that a lot of people are still like, no, it's still not good enough, but like those are some awesome movies. They're amazing, and you can tell that they put so much work and so much passion into it. And this is like, it's like a high school play or something. I don't even want to make fun of high schoolers, because I've seen them put on some plays and they do a really good job too. So
yeah, that's an insult to high schoolers.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't want to torture myself with this again. So I'll be watching House of the Dragon.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Rachel.
Yeah, no, just like final thoughts on Rings of Power before we can move on to something actually good with House of the Dragon is just like they went, like everyone was saying, Rings of Power went out of their way to find people who did not know the source material, were not fans, so then they wouldn't have anything to complain about in terms of like, oh, well, this isn't following the lore. I believe they also fired their Tolkien experts, their consultants during the show because, again, pointing out all the flaws in the characters, all the flaws in the directing, all the flaws related to Tolkien's lore. They just didn't want to hear it. And so that's why they knew they didn't have a good quality product. That's why when they did all these like promotion runs, they didn't say, oh, well, there's these new characters that we think you're going to like because they represent like this race, like they're really good with the elves, or like we did a really good job with the dwarven culture. They didn't do that because they knew it wasn't good. So then they ended up promoting Rings of Power. Like, here's the first Black female non-bearded dwarf lady. Here's the first Black or Latino elf. That's why they did those kinds of promotions, because they didn't have anything good to say about it. But like y'all were saying, nobody cared what color skin these characters had. What we cared about was good characters, and they didn't promote their show like it was quality writing or good characters. And that's why people were ripping into it. Like, I watched Rings of Power and I slugged through it because I was writing a godless amount of notes on each episode just to get my thoughts down. But like, the only character I liked in season 1, at least I started to, was Disa, who was the Black female dwarf. I liked her character at first. By the end of the show, I hated her because it feels like they just really flipped her personality. But she was actually pretty likable to begin with. And none of the other characters were. And then by the end of the show, like the last episode she was in, I'm like, nah, they just flipped her personality. I don't like her anymore. So there's nothing likable about the show. I'm not looking forward to it. I might watch Rings of Power Season 2. I don't know. I really don't want to. But one thing I do want to watch, trying to segue us into it, is House of the Dragon. I did not watch House of the Dragon Season 1. I kind of missed the boat on that, but I do want to watch it before Season 2 drops because everyone says it's so good. I'm really looking forward to it.
Rachel, I'm in the same boat. I was very, 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 very late to the party of Game of Thrones, and by the time that late party was season 8, so that tells you right there I would not want to watch it because I heard all the horrifying reviews. I even watched the EFAB version of it, so it's all that kind of stuff. So House of the Dragon, I was very skeptical. So like you probably were like, nah, this is not it. But I've heard very good things about it, especially from people like Lily and other people who love the show. So I might be watching this too. So I'm right there with you, Rachel.
Mags, you and I will have a watch party.
Yes, let's do it.
We'll do that.
And here's your difference as well, because in House of the Dragon, we actually did have an entire family who was also race swapped from the books. And at first, people were kind of pushing back a little bit. But once you started watching the TV show, that doesn't matter because, first of all, they never bring it up in the show either. Like, there's never like a weird thing to grab your attention towards it. And it's like these characters just match who they're supposed to be. I can't see anyone different being the sea snake anymore, which is one of the most prominent characters in the TV show, except for that actor that plays him. Now, whenever I'm reading the book, that's who I see in my head now because he did such a great job embodying the character. And I think this is what Rings of Power should have just shut up about it and not mentioned it, because I don't even think House of the Dragon even mentioned any of that stuff in their promotions. They were just like, guys, I know we messed up with Game of Thrones. Give us another chance. Watch our show. We really worked hard on it, and it shows. This show's like amazing. I love it. I can't wait. I'm like so excited.
Mike, have you watched House of the Dragon?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I definitely jumped into it. I was concerned. A lot of the marketing was not great for this show. They spent a lot of time talking about representation and strong female characters and patriarchy and all of this stuff, and I was like, okay, man, I'm gonna watch the first episode and see what it's like. And the first episode's fine.
Mhm.
It felt how do I put it? It felt a little preachy in the beginning, but it really does pick up the pace really well, and I was surprised. And by the second episode, I was fully invested. And they do something in season 1 that I didn't expect them to do. They do a time skip, and they do it in a way where some of the characters are aged up, and they got totally different actors and actresses for them.
Mhm.
Is that what I thought was kind of a bold choice, because you spend a couple episodes really getting to know these characters. You go, oh, I really like this actress, I really like this actress, and then you have to say goodbye to them in favor of these other actresses, and they kind of hit the ground running with it. Yeah, it's very good. For any Doctor Who fans out there, Matt Smith is in it. I
Yep.
had not watched Doctor Who before this. This was my
Oh,
first
really?
foray into
Okay.
Matt Smith was Last Night in Soho, and then I
Mhm.
watched him in Morbius. So
Mhm.
it wasn't like I had
Wow.
a really
Boy.
great
Yeah.
sample
What a
size.
jump.
Matt Smith is phenomenal in this show. He starts out one way, and you kind of see this character play one way, and as he continues on, he starts showing different aspects of his personality, what he has going on, and he is phenomenal. He's a huge part of what makes this show work. But everybody is really kind of bringing their A game here. I love season 1, and I say that like legitimately. I love season 1. I thought it was great. And I went back and watched it again recently, and it still holds up. And I was very excited to get into season 2. It also feels very different from Game of Thrones in some ways too, and I think that that's important, because Game of Thrones is a very big show with a lot of characters, a lot of families and names and things happening. There are a lot of people in this one too, but it's kind of confined to the happenings of like one family group.
Mm.
Like this one empire and everything going on with them and the people that they interact with and deal with. But they're all kind of adjacent to each other, and I really enjoyed it. It was great, and I was ecstatic for season 2.
So I have a question, as somebody who definitely is very, 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 very late to the party of Game of
Mhm.
Thrones. How do you reconcile the fact that with Game of Thrones there's an ending, that horrific ending, with the because a lot of times people have a hard time with more prequel stuff knowing where things are going to end up being.
Yeah.
How is it? Are you basically separating the two because you're enjoying this moment kind of situation?
Well, I would it's hard to I would argue it this way.
Okay.
Good art is good art.
Okay.
Nobody wants to watch good art become bad art, but we've all seen
Mhm.
it happen.
Right.
We all have shows that we loved and that didn't end well, had terrible endings. We've watched it happen with shows. We watched it happen with movies that went on too long, and they eventually made sequels that were bad. And I know that as an entire scope of Game of Thrones, you want to watch the whole story play out. But I will say this: Game of Thrones seasons 1, 2, 3, and 4 are some of the best television out there. The shows it is phenomenally written. It is extremely well acted. The story structure is great. And yeah, there is definitely a fall off, and you see it start to happen. And season 8 is an absolute disaster, but it doesn't make me like the other seasons any less. I don't know.
Gotcha.
It's hard to. The hard part is watching these characters not get the due that they justly deserved. And so there was definitely bad will going into House of the Dragon. Like, if they continue on with what they were doing in season 8, I'm not interested. I don't want to see that. I have no. And it very much felt like House of the Dragon was them saying, you know what, this is what made Game of Thrones good. This style of storytelling, the level of character depth, the level of subtlety, the level of theme, all the themes that are being explored. It very much feels like they did that again and recaptured that magic in House of the Dragon. And so I feel like they regained all of my goodwill, and they absolutely have my faith that they're going to make a really good season 2. So that's the thing. I wouldn't tell somebody, if you're interested in Game of Thrones, and you know what you're getting into, as far as there's a lot of death, there's a lot of murder, there's a lot of nudity, there's a lot of language. It's very rough around the edges, but there's a really good story in there. And I would just say to anybody, it's worth watching it because of the cultural impact that it had. You know, we haven't been able to watch another fantasy show come out that hasn't compared itself to Game of Thrones, which I think is a failure in a lot of ways as far as a writer. Because if you're trying to make the next Game of Thrones, you won't make it. Your goal should never be to make the next Game of Thrones. Your goal should be to write a good fantasy story, and you can be inspired by Game of Thrones or inspired by Lord of the Rings. We wouldn't have Game of Thrones without Lord of the Rings. There's a lot of that kind of stuff, but it's like concepts and ideas and themes built upon what work others have done. That's how you get to a good story. Writing good characters, writing good ideas down, instead of going, I'm going to make another Game of Thrones. So like, I'm just going to kill off main characters because I think it's fun to do. Like, that's not interesting. That's not what made the show good. That's not what made the story good. I think it's worth watching it just to enjoy it. But also, if you know that season 8's bad, like season 6, 7, and 8 are not good, you could kind of brace yourself and go, okay, I know I'm going to be disappointed with the ending. But if I know I'm going to be disappointed with the ending, I can appreciate what I do have. And then when the ending happens, you go, yeah, I kind of figured I was told that this was going to be what it was. So,
yeah. And just like Mando said in the chat too, this is set so far before Game of Thrones that you can definitely just watch it as its own thing. And you don't even have to go into Game of Thrones if you don't want to. The kind of cool thing about the book is that it kind of separates it by ruler. So it kind of goes into like, okay, Aegon's conquest, and this is how kind of everything came to be in the beginning, which they're now turning it into their own series. That's going to be like its own thing. So if you kind of just wanted to watch that part of it, you could. But then you have this part that's telling you about the dance of dragons, the big war that happened that kind of 100 years later is still being talked about in Game of Thrones. Then you can definitely do all of that too. So you can kind of... This kind of gives you a little bit of room to pick and choose what you kind of want to watch. But definitely, like Mike said, I would go into it and expect that the quality is just going to keep declining over seasons. But it's worth it to watch the first couple of seasons, definitely, because it's really good. It's like people, they're not afraid to kill off your favorite characters. If you have a character that's like, oh, he's so cool, I want to see him go on to like the end, and chances are they might not even make it to the next episode. So that's what I kind of like about it, that it always keeps you on edge because you're like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen next? It's super cool. But yeah, House of the Dragon season 2, that's what I'm waiting for.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
And then you, Epic Mike, like you said, you're obviously part of Epicverse. You are a story writer. You create things. So like, how do you see this and like inspires you, or like you get ideas from things like this? Well, obviously, don't follow the example of Rings of Power, but what is like one thing that you seek out when you see media like this for your own stuff?
I mean, I think it's important in any medium. If you're a writer, or if you're if you write television, if you write movies, if you write books, whatever it is, consuming good media is important. So you can, why does this make me feel this way? Why did I enjoy this story? What about it inspired me? And there's a lot of different ways to do that, whether it's just watching and partaking in something, and then you go, cool, I'm inspired by this, so how can I learn how to be a good writer? And you can learn how to do the basics and the structures and all of that, and then go out and write your own story. Or you go, hey, I was really inspired by this, and I want to know what about this specifically made it good. The thing that's beautiful about Lord of the Rings is there is, for as much lore as there is in the world itself and what all Tolkien built, there's just as much lore about how he came to those decisions and how he came to those conclusions. So that's always a really great place to start. But I think it's just as important to watch good media as it is sometimes to watch bad. You have to know why things don't work. Yep. It's not good to just go, well, I've heard it's bad, so I don't want to watch it. And you go, but I want to write television. It's important to sometimes watch bad television to see why it was bad. It helps to have both in a balance, because if you don't know why something sucks, then it's hard to avoid those pitfalls. You can watch like watching Lord of the Rings, for example, and then watching The Hobbit. You know, I know there's people that love the Hobbit movies, but the quality comparisons are very different. And then you can kind of look at why the Hobbit wasn't as good or didn't reach the same heights as Lord of the Rings. It was, you know, studio interference and all that stuff. But even just from a writing standpoint, it deviates from the source material a lot. And there's some weird choices that they made, and adding, you know, oh my gosh, what is her name?
Toriel.
Yeah, Toriel, because they wanted girl power. Because I was literally, I remember seeing that, and I got a lot of pushback from that from friends, but they were like, "No, we need girl power," and I'm like,
I remember those articles.
Yeah,
and like, then, what?
And then for them to be like, "Yeah, we need girl power," and then just put her in a love triangle between a dwarf and an elf, and I'm like, "That's your girl power? Is like a crappy love triangle? Like, what are we doing?" You know?
And what are they doing to Evangeline Lilly?
I will never forget her name because I hate that character so much.
Yep. And it's like, so you get to
ruined Legolas.
consuming good media and bad media will help you to produce better media. And it also just lets you learn about tropes and why, you know, tropes inherently aren't bad. They exist for a reason, but if you use them incorrectly, they're terrible.
Yep.
Like, bad tropes are the worst, but if you use a trope well, or you subvert expectations by using a certain trope, it's interesting, you know? So I have heard about the 4-hour fan edit of The Hobbit. But yeah, so it's important. But there's also, and this is like a little bit of a writing advice too, there is a critical mass that you will reach at some point. I know people and they go, I just don't want to make a bad story. So I've done so much reading and so much research, and I've learned so much, and I just constantly, and I don't want to do the wrong thing. At some point, there's only so much information your brain can take in before you have to pour out. And you know what? Chances are the first story you write, first time you're outing, whether you're writing a television show, you're writing a script, whether you're writing a book, whether you're writing a short story, it won't be very good, because you have to flex those muscles. Your brain is a muscle just like anything else, and it has to learn how to stitch things together and make things work. And you have to be, you know, I didn't start out as a great screenwriter. I don't even know that I'm a great screenwriter now. I'm just doing my best. I'm just writing things, and I'm hoping people will enjoy it. That's the risk that you take. And if you look at things like even some of the best directors out there, they started somewhere and they've gotten better. They didn't start out as the greatest director of all time. They wrote something, people really liked it, and you watch them grow as a director over time and make better things. And even, you know, some of the greatest directors of all time hit their peak years ago, and their stuff that they make now isn't as good as what they made before, but you still know that they're doing their best, and they're putting something out, you know. So I just, this is kind of a little bit of advice, is at some point you have to pour out. So, you know, before you can keep taking in more, you can't learn more without having poured out something. And it's like a cup. You have to pour out that cup to pour in new things and pour in new ideas and stuff like that. And it really does help. And the first time you can sit down and write out a page of an idea, the first time you type a screenplay out for the first time or whatever, you go, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I finally did it. I poured it out, and then people can look at it, decide for themselves what they think about it. And you take that criticism, and maybe it sucks. And that's okay. It's okay to suck. There's nothing wrong with sucking. The worst thing you could do if you suck at something is to get angry and justify your suckage, and then try to say, I'm just going to double down and do my own thing. You know, it's a trope in writing. Don't start with your baby, because everybody has like an idea. They're like, hey, I had an idea for a television show or a movie, and I know it's going to be good. It's going to be the best thing I've ever written. And then that's the first thing that they ever write. And then it comes out and they don't know what they don't know. They don't know what's bad or what doesn't work about it. And then they put it out there, and then people are like, this isn't very good. And they're like devastated. And they're like, I'll never write again because people hated my stuff. What will I ever do with my life? And you're like, no, don't start with your baby. Go write something else. Go write something that has less stakes, that is less close to your heart. And as you write those things, go back and revisit that other story that you're so passionate about. And I promise you will go like, why did I think this was a good idea? This is not good. Like, oh my gosh, like, could you imagine if I put this out like first thing? Oh my gosh, I would have been laughed at and laughed off, you know. It's important to, it all takes time, and it takes work, and it's very difficult to do. Making good art is difficult. It is. I wouldn't say that it's like as hard as, you know, working in a factory all day and providing for your family. There are levels of difficulty, But what it is any endeavor that you want to do well, you have to work hard at, and it's difficult to work hard at. So yeah, I mean, I would using a good example like Dr. Rachel, I know you do like cosplay and stuff like that. I'm sure that if you look back at where you started and where you are now, you grew as a cosplayer. But if you never got started, you're like, I don't want to make bad cosplay. You would have never got started. You have to figure it out. You know?
Yep.
Yeah. So
I love that advice because the more you kept talking, the more the phrase "practice makes perfect" kept coming up in my head. And this is why I'm not this might be a hot take, but this is why I'm not a firm believer in quote unquote hate watching. I think everybody needs to be exposed to all kinds of media to be able to get a balanced approach of what is actually good media versus what is bad media. And, yes, that also means you have to watch things that you may not enjoy. So to be able to kind of get that perspective. So, and then that way you gain that experience, like what Mike was saying, and being able to apply it to creative endeavors. Should you choose it? Should you choose to accept it? Like in Mission Impossible.
The thing about the thing about hate watching is you have to be willing to be teachable.
Yes,
in all things.
Exactly.
You have to be willing to be teachable in that somebody wrote a television show. And I mean this with respect, because I think you can critique something. You can be a really good critic,
right?
And not be capable of doing better. Like you can critique something and not be capable of doing the thing itself. They're not mutually, being a good critic and having a good eye for something is not mutually exclusive to being an expert at doing the thing that you're doing.
Right.
A good example is like, if you go out on the street and walk up to, I don't know, a house, and you look, like if you just walk into a random person's house, you go, I wouldn't do this with this house. Like you walk in and the first thing the door does is like slam into like another door, or like you go, I wouldn't have done this if I was a home builder. This home is built very poorly. You step onto the floor and the floor cracks and gives way and your foot goes through the floor. That doesn't mean you can build a floor. That doesn't mean that you're capable of doing something better, but you're able to point out that something is not good. And that's the difference here, is like being a critic and watching something and being able to point out why it's not good and being able to point out what the shortcomings are is good. Does not mean that you're capable of then sitting down and writing a better show. It means that you can learn how to do so, and you know the pitfalls that you should avoid when you're writing. But once again, everybody starts out at level 0 and gets better over time. It's just that some people's ceilings are higher, and some people's capabilities grow faster than others. There's some people that start out as terrible writers and it takes them years to get better, and then one day they do attain the level of being a really good writer. Some people take to it like water. Their first book is pretty solid and they just take off from there, and they just keep putting out banger after banger after banger. You see it with sports. There are some athletes that worked really hard to get where they got. And there are some athletes that were just naturally gifted and just had a higher ceiling. It's how it works. But at the end of the day, practice makes perfect, and you still have to work hard. If you don't do it, it doesn't matter how gifted you are, you'll never get better.
Well, it's just like with a critic's perspective, we have to have a well-balanced view of what's good and what's bad. So we all have to experience, the setbacks as well as, as well as the good times. There's a difference between both ends, and we've obviously, a lot of us have seen the good, the bad, the ugly. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then we have a question here from Paul Bustle. Like, how would you explain the critics that love a lot of modern art?
Once again, the human experience is like really, really, really complex. So there's a lot of different reasons. I know some people that just say, you know what, I don't want to. There are people that go, hey, I don't want to be negative. And that's they go, I don't want to be negative. I don't want to talk bad about things. I just want to enjoy things and have fun and find the good in all things. And so you might be that kind of person. So you go and watch a movie and you go, I'm not going to spend all this time looking and picking it apart. I'm not going to pick it apart. I'm just going to like shut my brain off and watch it. And you know what? There are things that we all have that are like that. I like the Fast and Furious movies. They are not good movies. They are ridiculous movies. They use cars as weapons. Like, they straight up do car food. I'm not, and you're like, this is ridiculous. They're like, there is a scene where a guy drives a car out of a building to get into another building.
Yep.
Like, and you're like, that's not even how physics works. So yes, it's ridiculous. But at the end of the day, I had fun and I enjoyed it. And it was silly and it was goofy. There's a scene where a guy breaks his arm and 4 days later decides, you know what? I need to shoot this giant gun with this broken arm. And so he tells his arm that daddy's got to go to work, rips off the cast, and shoots the gun. I'm like, that's not how bones work. They don't just heal because you tell them you got to go to work. You can't just, that's not how any of this works. But it was funny and I enjoyed it for what it was. And I think that that's sometimes what people are. I do think that there are people that legitimately are like that. They just go, I want to enjoy it for what it is.
Yep.
I will find the enjoyment in it, and I can just say I really enjoyed it and had a fun time. But I don't think that at the end of the day they can say that they were looking at it with a critical eye, or even that they can argue they're being objective. I think that they, I don't think there's anything. All opinions are subjective. There's no such thing as an objective opinion, because that's what an opinion is. But you can look at something and go, by these metrics, this is not a good thing. But you can also go by the metrics that I judge things by. It was good and it was enjoyable and I had a fun time, and that's completely valid. The other side of things, I think there are people that, are definitely biased, definitely don't want to critique things because they don't want to lose access. They don't want to be lumped in with haters. They don't want to be called a hater. They don't want a negative response, or maybe they're trying to get into this. Happens, unfortunately. People are trying to get into the industry. There are people that live in LA or live in Hollywood and they do they're critics, or they talk about things, or maybe they're on TikTok and they're really popular and they want to get into the industry, and they're trying really hard to not say bad things about the industry because they hope that that'll give them access. That happens all the time in the industry, and some of those people just don't want to get blackballed later when they work for somebody and they go, hey, I saw a video where you said my stuff sucked, so I don't want to work with you, because unfortunately that does happen in the industry. I personally am working for an independent studio. You know what, maybe one day I'll have to run into somebody who I said their movie sucks, and you know what, if they ask me, hey man, you said my movie sucked, I'm like, yeah, I did, sorry. Like, if you don't work with me, I mean, that sucks, but like, I have to have opinions about things, and I have to be honest with myself, especially when I'm working in the industry. If people in the industry were able to be more honest with each other about how they actually felt about certain things and how things were done, we would have a lot better movies. We'd have a lot better TV shows. There'd be a lot of amazing things out there.
That's why I'm a big fan of, like, if somebody asks me in my opinion on a movie or a TV show or whatever, and I always say, well, subjectively, this is how I felt, but objectively, it's this, that, and the other. It's like, so that's, I take it like that, because I think a lot of times people want to know where your feelings are, but also they want to, they're afraid of talking about the truth. And it's like, here's my approach of two different ways, but that's up to you to go about your business. So
yeah, because that's the way that you feel about the Fast and the Furious movies is how I feel about the Godzilla, the Monsterverse too. So whenever someone asks me about my opinion of those movies, the first thing that I usually say is, okay, I like Godzilla. I will watch anything that Godzilla will take my opinion with a grain of salt if you want to. Like, I will tell you what I thought was bad about it, what was good about it, but I'm gonna try to be honest about it too. I'm not just gonna be like, no, this is like the greatest movie of all time. But those are, I think those classify as movies that you just kind of you go watch them to have fun. I watch them to have fun.
Yep, and I think that that's a totally valid way of looking at things. I did see that Paul kind of clarified too, like people that look at like a banana taped to a wall and call it modern art. If we're getting into, once again, it really depends, okay? But at the end of the day too, like some people, especially with modern art and stuff, it's more about like brownie points. Oh, that's so beautiful, I love that. I'm like, it's not really beautiful. That's not pretty, or there's nothing beautiful about a banana on a wall. I'm sorry, like that's not. It just is.
It turns rotten. Gee, that's ironic.
Yep,
well, not only that, well, like it kind of peeves me. So I'll let you talk in a minute. But like when I see the people in New York City, like just throwing paint or just dousing themselves in paint and just rolling on the floor, that's not art. Yeah. That's not art. Yeah. I'm not moved by it. Like, I'm just curious if you're disturbed.
Yeah. Yeah, you're like, what's going on with you? Well, it was one of my favorite when I learned how to do screenwriting. There was a lady. Her name is Barbara Nicolosi. She's a writer. And she does like script consulting and stuff like that. And there was something really, really poignant that she did, and I loved the point here. She went, she took a picture of the Sistine Chapel and put it up like on a PowerPoint, and then she took a picture of like a Precious Memories doll. I don't know if you guys remember those. Like they're like these like
Yeah.
And she put them together side by side, and she goes, "One of these is art, and one of these is not, and you can decide which one is." She goes, you know, what people will argue is that one of these at one point is art because people put time and effort and quality into them. But she goes, but the comparison between the two is sometimes where we find the value in art. If you look at the painting, the Mona Lisa, and compare it to a banana taped to a wall, one of them is art, one of them is not. But it also comes down to where people assign the value. And I think sometimes, unfortunately, we've gotten to a place where the pursuit for quality, the pursuit for innovation, and the pursuit of beauty has gotten, you know, people go like, that's ridiculous.
Speaking of beauty, sorry.
That was very kind. I'm gonna try not to blush. You can't see it though. But like, so if you take, when people are so focused on pushing art, pushing the boundaries of what art can be, pushing the boundaries of what we know as art, sometimes you get really innovative things, you get really cool stuff. Sometimes you get garbage, like people dumping paint on themselves and rolling around on a piece of paper. And that's really what it comes down to, is sometimes you find somebody that does something and you go, wow, this is amazing. But then you also get things like, you know, unfortunately, and I mean this with respect, somewhat respect, like Andy Warhol. If you compare an Andy Warhol to like a Picasso, if you compare an Andy Warhol to, you know, to the Sistine Chapel, how are these two things here? And part of it is the way that society progresses and the way that people that are artists have to pursue new ideas and concepts to get to more beauty, or to find a way to create more beauty. Because as human beings, we're constantly trying to invent and grow and change and evolve and make things better and make things more beautiful. But also at some point, people that are in charge of art become lazy, and they don't want to put in the work, and they don't have the capability to put in the work to reach the same levels as the Sistine Chapel. So what they do is they go out of their way to design something that is a lower threshold for art, so that they can get the same accolade and the same love and the same appreciation, but with a much lower threshold for where they got there. And unfortunately, I think that's where we are today. I think you can compare movies from, you could compare and I'll use Fast and Furious as an example again. You compare Casablanca to like Fast and Furious 5. One is art, one is not art. But
Casablanca is definitely art.
Yeah, Casablanca is art, but you can appreciate Fast and Furious, but you realize the threshold is very different.
Yes, I think it has a lot to do, and this is just my take of it. You know, art back then was made to a glory above yourself, above humanity, you know, for something bigger and bigger than yourself. Now it just seems like the art is just for ourselves, and rather than making it bigger and more beautiful and something to revere to, it seems like it reflects the ugliness of humanity more than anything else, and rather than something that's what art is supposed to be, which is a pursuit of beauty and something above us in terms of like something to revere. And it's not even there today. At least that's how I take it. It's
Yep. Yeah. No, I agree. Like modern art is it's like what both of you are saying. It's selfish. It's putting yourself above the culture, or it's trying to like spread a message, not necessarily for the sake of the message. Like the hug statue, which I've seen, it looks like a giant turd. Not gonna lie. It does. It looks like a giant turd in Boston. But it's trying to put a message out there mainly to try to showcase that, oh, yeah, I support this cause, or I support this topic, or I support this thing. It's not actually in support of it. It's trying to put the artist first. Whereas what Mags was saying before, you know, older art, it was like all the comments are saying, it's an expression of something greater than yourself. It's trying to tell a story. It's you put in effort to put something on a page or in a statue in stone or on film or in a song, whatever it is, whatever kind of medium you're working with, you're trying to put something out there, find beauty and let others enjoy it. It's not about putting yourself, it's not about making yourself notorious. It's not about putting your ideology above anything else.
100%. Very well said. Yeah. Yep. And yeah, like I said, I use an example because I have a deep appreciation for people that do cosplay because that stuff's hard, and there are people that do they just find a costume and they put on a costume and they do their best. That's still awesome. Like that's great. That's still more than a person not wearing a costume. Okay, but somebody that tries to say, "Hey, I went and bought like a Party City robot costume and it's made of plastic and it doesn't cover my whole body and blah blah blah," and then somebody that went and like built a custom, like they put together pieces and sewed and stitched and glued and all this stuff, or even welded pieces together to make like an authentic robot costume. You compare the two of them, one is objectively better than the other one. Doesn't mean that you can't appreciate the effort on both sides, that you can't applaud the effort on both sides. At the end of the day, I think some people get frustrated because they know that what they've done will never be to the same level as the work that other people have done. I can make movies, and maybe I will never make a movie that is as good as Casablanca. Maybe I'll never make a movie that is as good as Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. I can do my best, and I would love one day to make a piece of art that people talk about for years to come. Because at the end of the day, a lot of people, what I think at the end of the day, what a lot of people are trying to pursue when they pursue art is immortality. It's our way of leaving our mark on the world, and I would love to make a movie that people talk about 100 years from now. That would be amazing, and that would be wonderful. And if I put in the hard work and one day that happens, awesome. If it never happens, okay, at least people were entertained. If people were entertained, then that's what matters. But if I, as an artist, go, no, I made a movie and it's art and I put really hard work into it, and it's a comedy about a guy that slips on a banana peel or whatever, and that's what I think is great art or whatever. And now I'm trying to gaslight everybody to believe what I've done is comparable to what Peter Jackson did, or what I've done is, comparable to any of the other classic movies that people have grown up with. This is basically The Godfather. Okay, it's not, and I need to be okay with that. But I think this is also a part of society as people go, well, I don't really want to critique because I might hurt somebody's feelings, and I'm like, I'm sorry, but if you're an artist, you're going to get your feelings hurt a lot. It happens. People are going to critique your stuff. People say The Godfather sucks. People will watch Casablanca and go, this movie sucks. It'll happen. People do it. Some people reflexively do it. Some people do it out of spite or envy or hatred. Some people just don't like your movie because it's not their thing, but at the end of the day, like, the consensus is this is a great thing. And that's where we kind of assign the value of art. So, yep.
Yeah.
Also very well said.
No, definitely. And then we are taking last call questions, and I think this is a very good question in all of this. Our lovely friend Tabitha, since it's very refreshing to hear your point of view on art, Mike, because I think I like to hear it more from like a man's perspective, from a female's perspective, because like we have different views on things. But this is a good question where, Jamie Tabitha does have a painting channel, and I think you'd be great on her show as a guest.
I'm not a painter.
And neither am I, and I was on there.
I mean, I would happily go on Tabitha's channel. Yeah, absolutely. I'm just letting you know, like, I can critique a painting and be like, I don't really like this. I do draw stick figures sometimes, but sometimes the stick figures look awful. So
okay, I'm not a painter, and I drew an Eevee with Tabitha, and that inspired me to make art now. Like, okay, I can do that, like little paintings, drawings here and there. Her and I will probably reveal that because I did do something that Tabitha and I talked about, and it had to do with Mr. Rogers and Paddington Bear and Baloo the Bear. So that's something, we had an idea. Let's make art out of it. Now, I did have a question for you, Mike. Now, what was like a sorts of media, movie, like obviously a film, show, music that kind of inspired you? Like, I want to be a writer.
That's a really good question. I don't know. It just kind of was like a progressive thing. I mean, I grew up reading like, um, this is not a brag because it sounds like it might be a brag, but it's not a brag. But like, um, okay, I'll start out this way, and I'll try to make this brief. I wasn't able to. I did not know how to read. I don't know whether it was a mental blockage or what. I wasn't capable of reading until I was like 7. I had no idea what words were. I could not figure out how to fucking read. It just, forgive me for the language, but I did not
Yeah, it's
know
okay.
how to do it. I was like, I could not read until I was like 7. And then one day I figured it out. I don't know what happened, but one day it just clicked in my brain. I figured it out. And then I could not stop reading. I would read all these books and stuff. And so by the time I was in like, I think I was like 6th grade, I had like a college reading level. I read everything. And the thing that was frustrating as a kid was like in our public library, I would read books in our public library, but like all the books that were like my age level, like I remember still to this day, the only book that was like of my reading level was like a biography on Abraham Lincoln. And I started reading it and I was like, this sucks. I'm so bored. I don't want to read this. And so I was very thankful. My mom got me a lot of the classics. And so I read War of the Worlds. I read The Invisible Man. I read The Time Machine, Journey to the Center of the Earth. I read Robin Hood. I read a lot of the classics growing up as a kid, and I just consumed these books. It was awesome. I discovered Lord of the Rings in high school before the movies came out, fortunately, and I just blew through the books. I read them twice, back to back. I read them, and I was like, that was so good. I'm going to read them again. I read Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and I love those books. I was just like, I just read everything. And as I grew up, my mother also was very big on getting me into movies and film. So we watched a lot of different things. We watched, credit where credit is due. The BBC back in the day used to put out bangers. Okay. Like my wife introduced me to like Pride and Prejudice after we got married. The BBC Pride and Prejudice is like a banger.
Yeah.
Like, that it rocks.
I
this is
love
so
that
good.
version.
Yes, it
and
is.
then like I watched the Keira Knightley version. I'm like, it's fine, but it's not as good. Like it's not as good. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, the BBC used, but like there's a lot of shows there. Like I grew up just watching a lot of different TV shows and I was introduced to Star Trek really young and stuff. So I watched a lot of those. My mom picked and chose a lot of movies that she thought would inspire me and stuff like that. So just over time, I just really grew to appreciate movies and television and books and stuff like that. And I think it was just a natural progression that I took in so much. And I was always creative. I always had a really creative, active imagination. I had a lot of toys when I was young. The Hunchback of Notre Dame starts out rough. That's a rough one to start out with. But yeah, like I just over time I just had so much, and I already had an active imagination. I was like, maybe I'll just like write stories. And so like as a kid, I wrote a lot of short stories and different things like that, and was like, man, it would be kind of fun to one day grow to be a writer. But I noticed whenever I'd start sitting down to write something, I couldn't stop at like a page and a half. Like it would be like 12, 15, 16, 20 pages. And these like ideas would just kind of like flow out. And it was like, oh my gosh, like I can't stop. Like there's so much I want to do. And there's so much I want to get out on paper and stuff like that. And then as I got a little older, I realized, I think movies might be the way I want to do this. I think movies, and physical live action media and even animation and stuff might be the way to tell some of the stories in my head that I want to tell, versus writing a book or stuff like that. So that's kind of what led me there. And then I did tell the story recently that like I had a job working in like a factory. It was like my first ever job, and I was bored out of my mind. And in order to keep myself from going insane, I just started cooking up an idea in my head for a television show. And I wrote out like an entire like series Bible of where the show started and the characters and the themes and the ideas and how every season would be structured and the storylines for every season and stuff. It was just a project just to keep myself sane while I was working. And it kind of got me the bug. And then I met Josiah, and we've been friends for 8-9 years now, and we're both creatives and we both can't shut it off, and we've come up with lots of ideas over the years. And then one day we were like, you know what, we should do something about this for real, not just talking about it, like for real, let's figure out what we can do. And Epicverse was kind of born out of that. 7 years of just us coming up with ideas behind the scenes and going, we got to do something about this. So
yeah, I've seen and been heard. I've heard a couple of things coming from Epicverse. I don't know if you're allowed to share anything upcoming projects, but I know that you had some project with Jake the Viking, if you're the Beardo.
Yep.
Like that, I just saw a little bit of teasers and just like behind the scenes, and that looked like exciting. That looked like something I would like to spend money to go see.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you like the quick pitch about it. So, the goal with Epicverse and the goal with starting Epicverse the way that we started it, it was to, instead of starting like a crowdfunder or saying, hey guys, we want to make movies, so give us money and we'll go make movies. Wouldn't that be fun? Yay. Which there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that do it that way, and that's fine. But the problem is you don't know what you don't know. And we didn't want to just step onto the stage and go, yeah, let's make movies, and we don't know what we're doing. And so we make a movie and it's not very good, and people go, oh, it's fine, whatever, and then maybe people don't want to give us money to make movies anymore. Or maybe we do a terrible movie. People, I'm like, let's figure out how to do this before asking people for resources to do it. And so we came up with like these 6 projects that we thought were really solid ideas. We really liked them, and I was like, this would be kind of fun just to do these. Let's just do these projects. And so we started working on these short films, and one of them happened to be a Viking short film. They're all born out of different ideas. Some of them were like, what if make a story out of this? Or one of them was like, hey, I have this like idea, like Reflection. I was like, yo, I have this idea in my head for a movie. We can turn it into a short film. That way we can do it, because short films are a lot easier. But we've learned a lot, and the beautiful part about it is we've learned how to make movies the right way. Because if we had started out not knowing things, we would have done a lot of things wrong. It would have taken a lot longer, and things would have been not to the quality level that we think they should be at. There's always a ceiling monetarily too with films, but the hope still is that when we're ready and everything that we have is done, and the final edits are put out, and all the special effects and music, because movies take a lot of work even after you shoot them. You go out and shoot them, and then you have to do sound design, you have to do special effects, and you have to do color corrections and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, once they're all done, you guys have something that you can look at and watch and enjoy and appreciate, and then go, yeah, like I kind of want to see what else these guys can do, because that we care about your money, we care about your time, we care about all of that stuff, and we want to make stuff like that. And also that we care about your ideas. If you're somebody that wants to just submit an idea, or you're somebody that goes, hey, I've always wanted to make a movie, or I made movies in the day and I haven't been able to for years, or whatever the story is, like I want to be able to help facilitate other people's ideas like that too. So that was kind of the idea behind Epicverse. That's how we got to where we are. And yeah, we right now we've announced 6 projects. There's a couple other independent projects that we helped either fund or we were consulting on and stuff like that we also helped get off the ground. But yeah, Box, Reflection, Green Grass, Successor, Magic, and what was the other one? Hold on. Blood and Water. That's the Viking film. Those are the 6 that we have. They're on our website that you can look at them. They're not ready. The website is a placeholder. When they're ready, we have a new website that we've been cooking up. The new website looks amazing, and once we put it out, you guys will be like, "Oh my gosh, this is really, really, really cool." So
I'm so excited. Ever since when you first announced it, I was like, yes, I am so excited for people in our space to keep branching out and really getting their feet wet into this and the filming sphere of it all. So I'm excited. This is exciting.
That.
So.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. And yeah, if that's the other thing too. We get a lot of people that are scared to reach out, or they're like, hey, I do things, like I make things. There's a lot of people behind the scenes in our community. They go, yo, I spent 25 years making special effects for Hollywood, and then I just quit, and now I don't know, work at a shopping center, and I just want to make things again. Like if you're one of those people, or you go, hey, I've always wanted to try to get into this, please feel free to reach out. My DMs are open. And the best thing that you could do right now, even if you hear a no or not right, we don't have anything for you right now. If you get your foot in the door now, I'll remember you, and that's a conversation we can have. It's a lot harder to get in the door once we've already launched and we're busy, and then somebody goes, I can do things. And you're like, yeah, I know, but like, we're busy now. Like, you know,
Mhm.
it's hard to pick and choose in after you've already started versus in the beginning when you have people that are like, hey, cool. I'm not just trying to make money. I'm just not trying to take your money, you know, because I think that's something that happens a lot too. Is a lot of people want to help once the work has been done, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So,
Now,
yeah.
what would you say to people? How you said my DMs are open. Feel free to reach out. What would be a good answer to give to those who do want to create art, whatever media they want to use? Like everyone has a fear of rejection. What would your advice be to them?
If you have a fear of rejection, you're gonna have to get over that really fast because you're gonna get rejected all the time. You'll get rejected by people that think your art is good because they don't like that your art is good. It happens no matter who you are, no matter where you are. You know, I've seen good ideas that I've had die on the vine in Epicverse, and that's not a critique of anything we have going on. Just sometimes I'm like, yo, I have this idea, and we go like, we just don't have the time for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and maybe that idea just never gets made. Yeah, or the capacity for it. Sometimes that happens too. You know, learning to take no for an answer, take no, and no not always meaning never. Sometimes it just means not right now.
Mm-hmm.
But learning how to hear no and not let your dreams be dashed. Dave Chappelle brought this up one time in one of his comedy specials. He called it having a brittle spirit. If the first time you go to do a project or do something or make something, you hear no and your dreams are dashed and you don't want to do it anymore, you really weren't that passionate about it to begin with. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Or the first time you make a piece of art, but let's say the first time you write a story, it's not very good and people say this isn't very good. And you go, I'll never write again. Oh, I can't recover from this. Then guess what? You weren't really in it to do writing. You were in it to feel good about yourself and something that you worked on. You know, the goal and the beauty of it is when you do finally get to a point where people think what you have is worth something and worth time, worth effort, and you get to see that become something. It's a very addicting feeling. I will say this: the very first time I wrote when I wrote a script for a short film and then like shot it, and the first time I watched a scene that I wrote with actors that I chose act out a scene that I created in my head, it was like mind-blowing, and it was also extremely addicting. And I was like, oh no, I have to keep doing this the rest of my life now because I need to keep chasing this high. And sometimes you have to be self-deluded enough to realize, yeah, you're chasing a high, because not everything that I make is going to be a hit. Not everything I make is going to be great, but I'm going to try to get better, and I'm going to try to keep moving forward. And I'm also going to understand that criticism, good faith criticism, because there's some people that just hate whatever you make, but criticism is good to hear because that's how you get better. Okay, somebody says your movie sucks. Okay, well, great, whatever. Somebody goes, I think the acting in this is not very good. And you go, okay, well, what about the acting could be better? How can I get better? You know, you go read about actors or how to direct actors better. Or you go, man, the shots in this movie kind of suck, or the art color in this movie is bad, or whatever the thing is. You can take that criticism and you go, okay, what about it is true? Is it true? Or is it just an opinion somebody has? Whatever it is. And that kind of criticism can help you grow as an artist. But if you can't take criticism, if you can't take hearing no, if you can't take hearing people saying mean things about the stuff you work on, you're probably in the wrong business. Okay? Because everybody's going to have an opinion about what you do. And the bigger your projects, the more you work, the more things you do, the bigger the stage is, and the more people will have things to say, you know? And it's how do they say, like, one negative comment has the same impact as like 10 positive comments. Sometimes that's a really hard thing to remember. You could have, like, let's say, you know, like Nomi, you make a video and you put it out on YouTube, and like 150 comments are like, this is amazing, oh my god, I love your perspective, this is awesome. And then one person goes, you suck. And you read that and you go, I suck? Why do I suck? You know, and you're kind of like dwelling on it. You're like, man, it's a natural state of things, because now you're like, all the goodwill that people just poured on, and you're like, oh, were they really being serious? Are they just trying to be nice to me? So like that, you have to have like a level of self-awareness. You have to have a level of self-confidence that says, even if somebody tells me I suck, I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep working at it. I'm going to keep chipping away and trying to get better at it. You know, it's just how it is. And you have to be willing to take that risk. And I use this as an example again, like Rachel, because I have a lot of respect for this. Cosplayers, I don't know how you guys do it, but you have to make a costume, and you have to be willing to put that costume on and go out in public in that costume. And if somebody says, I think your costume sucks, like that, I would be devastated if somebody walked up to me, yo, your costume sucks. I'd be like, I'm going to go home and cry now. Okay, but I'm not passionate about it. But if I get criticism about this, how can I go make it better? And then you make awesome stuff, and that's how you get there. Because like I said, I respect the hell out of people that do it.
Yep.
We watched Nomi almost die from it. I respect it, but you have to be willing to risk it, and you have to understand that it's not always going to go your way. And if it doesn't go your way, you got to keep moving forward, even though if it doesn't.
It's something that you're willing to die for.
Yeah.
To add on to what you were saying, Mike, about
Yeah.
cosplay and really about any kind of art that you're making, it's not just taking other people's criticism, it's also about giving yourself objective criticism too, and learning through feedback to work on it. Like a lot of my costumes, the earlier stuff, it was not good. There were so many parts of Sauron that were just breaking
Yeah.
and I couldn't wear it. Because it's not just about like making a good costume that, looks nice for a couple pictures. It's like what Nomi discovered and anyone else who's done cosplay. It's something that you got to be wearing for 14 hours at a convention.
Mhm.
So there's so many parts of it that, like, if someone gives you criticism, be like, okay, what can I learn from this? What can I do to make it better? But also at the end of the day, when you're taking off your own costume and seeing broken parts or falling down staircases because your heels were too high or whatever it is, like, you also need to reflect on it yourself and go back and make those changes to your picture or your movie or your costume. Again, whatever it is, you also need to reflect on it yourself. You need to learn to differentiate the subjective from the objective. You can be like, subjectively, I love this. I still love the character. I want to keep going with this. But objectively, there are things I need to fix.
Yeah.
So people need to take criticism as much as dish it on themselves as well.
And then not only that, if I can weigh in, when I did a cosplay of Cruella de Vil when I went to MegaCon, I did it on the budget. I did it everything on the dime. So I used what I had, which was the black dress. I found the white coat at Goodwill for $2. And then the shoes I found $12. Bought a $10 can of red spray painted the shoes. And I got the dollar store fake white strips. That I just did a cosplay under $50 and I made it work. And I wasn't doing it for the art. I had fun painting the boots, but I did it for the laughs. I did it for the smiles and people recognizing me. Hey, you're Cruella de Vil. And also I did it for the fact that there was going to be tons of furries at MegaCon. So me being Cruella de Vil, I want their fur. I'm going to make coats out of them. And I did that with furries, even though I don't necessarily agree with their lifestyle, but they had fun. And I am glad that I was able to bring some sort of laughter to them, even though I don't see their perspective in their lifestyle. It's more of like enjoying the moment of what's happening right there and then.
Yeah. I kind of like the idea that you were just walking around like looking at furries and they're like, is she going to kill me? Like,
yeah, it was so much fun. I had like, as soon as I got there, I didn't even think about that until I was walking up and then I saw my first furries. Like, I know what I'm going to do all day. I'm going to go hunt furries.
I know what I'm going to do all day.
I have a question for Mike before I know we're closing on 2 hours, but and probably you've already done this, so I apologize. But are you looking into adding more? Like, are you going to be doing more musical pieces type of stuff for your films, like singing or anything like that for anybody who is very much a musician or connoisseur into making their own music?
Yeah. So there's a couple layers to that.
Okay.
I am not a musical guy.
Okay.
I like musicals sometimes.
Well, not necessarily
super
musicals, but adding music to your films.
As far
and
as adding music and stuff. Oh yeah, we're we're always looking for people.
Gotcha.
And there's a lot of people that do that, and there's a lot of people that are really passionate about it. I think I would argue, and this is not a bad thing, because I think having too much to choose from, there's a lot of people that approach us about doing music.
Gotcha.
There's a lot of people that are really passionate about music. The music has a really big community. I would just say, like I said, reach out, but keep working at it. You will find that there are always people that need music for movies, that need it for or need help with sound design, like that. Dr. Rachel dropped that in the chat. Like, everybody's an artist. Sometimes what you don't realize is the art that you're doing is just, it doesn't seem like it's art. Like, everybody has like a different thing that they're good at. If you're the guy that's just good at set design, you're making art. Like you are, because I tell you right now, we have a guy that does set design for us. And if you go watch like any of our movies, like there's a lot of intention behind like that piece of paper needs to sit here because it'll look like this in the frame and things like that. The staging and stuff like that. It's a lot of work, but you know, you're still making art when you do it. So like as far as music and stuff like that, first of all, I would say if you're a musician, if you're a sound designer, please feel free to reach out. Okay. And don't, if you don't hear from me in a while, check in a couple months or check in a couple weeks. It's fine. You know, if I say no or nothing right now, don't just give up and think I'm not interested. If I'm not interested, I will just say, no, thank you. I'm not interested. Okay. But I rarely say that to anybody. Okay. Yeah, it's important because music is extremely important. A lot of people don't realize how important music is to movies and how important like sound design is for movies. A really good example is to go watch your favorite scene from like a movie. Go watch like Lord of the Rings. Okay.
Oh gosh, I was gonna say Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, go watch Lord of the Rings and go watch like the Ride of the Rohirrim and listen to the music and the drums and you're getting built up and you're getting teary eyed and you're like, oh my god,
my
it's so
favorite
good.
scene.
Okay, and then go back and watch it, mute it, and just put on like a Taylor Swift song.
No, don't do that.
No, I'm honestly serious. Like, go put on a Taylor Swift song, or go put on the Benny Hill music, and watch how it completely changes the landscape of that scene. Now all of a sudden the scene is beautifully shot, but it's kind of goofy, and you're like, oh no, it affects you. People are affected by music. It is extremely important. And the unfortunate thing that's happened a lot in movies is there are a lot of bad movies that have really good music because they know how to manipulate people through sound. Sound is very important to the human experience. Vibrations are really important to the human experience and stuff. And they will trick you with music to believe that something is better than it should be. They'll trick you with sound design that something is cooler than it should be. It happens a lot. It's about blending all of it together. There's a lot of moving pieces, and there's a reason sometimes people call movies a miracle, because a good movie means that everybody that was doing their jobs did their jobs so well that something and all the pieces fit so well together that when you watched it as a person, you had an experience that made you like want more of that, you know, and it made you appreciate that art. So yeah, it's vital. You can't have a good movie without music. Even knowing when to put music in and when not to put music in, things like that is really important. Knowing when to have certain sounds hit at certain times, it's all extremely important. There's a science to it, and it's kind of like, in a way, it's kind of like magic. So
well, I kind of want to bring something up. Oh, go ahead.
Just super quick.
Go.
You said that. No, yeah, I have to bring up Dune 2 again. But exactly, you have to know when you have to like take out the music, because it took me a while to figure out that during the end scene with the knife fight, there's absolutely no music playing.
Yes, I noticed that.
And that was amazing, because I remember a lot of people were going back like, wait a second, we're missing the piece in the knife fight, because a lot of people, I do this, I like to make playlists of my favorite scores and all that stuff just to listen sometimes when I'm doing things that I just need something in the background. And yeah, a lot of people were like, wait a second, we don't have a piece of music in there because none exists. They actually didn't have anything for that portion. It's just what you hear, the blades crashing together, all of the bodies slamming into each other. So yeah, that's like, yes, definitely. Like music, sounds, all of that stuff is super important, because that's what makes you like also feel something too. So
go ahead, Mike.
Well, I was gonna say, speaking of Dune 2, like you want to like interesting sound design. Timothée Chalamet, to his credit, listen, I know a lot of people did not like him as Paul Atreides. I'm sorry, I think he kind of crushed it. If you watch how he talks in the first movie, he's very soft spoken. He's like, oh, we got blah 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 and stuff like that. The scene where he like walks into the temple, that dude put like the work in. He deepens his voice. He's screaming. He's shouting. You know, like I was like, oh my gosh, like when he starts dropping it, like you like there's a tonal shift, and it's all like the music, like the musical score building, and it's like a ton of bass, so you feel like power, and then like for him to like he deepens his voice and stuff. You're like, bro, is this the same guy? Is this the same dude from like 5 minutes earlier? Like all of that is so important, and you don't realize that in the moment because you're moved by it. And that's what you're supposed to. Art is supposed to make you feel something. That's why, that's what good art does. But, you know, great art is a lot of little things coming together to move you in a way that you didn't think you could be moved, or to catch you off guard and how you were moved by it, you know? So yeah.
And then in the same thing too, that same movie, that's why it's like crazy that you guys that are into films and all of that, where you have to come up with different scenes to make it look interesting. Like the arena scene that they filmed it in freaking infrared. Who would have thought to do that? And then if you notice too, whenever they go from the shade into the sun, the color of their clothing changes. If you see, I think the Bene Gesserits that arrive, their clothing is black, and then as soon as they step into the sun, everything goes white. So they think about all of these things, and it looks crazy. And that came up because the director was like, well, we need to figure out, because this arena's full of sand and it's going to look the same as we've been in the entire movie on Arrakis. How can we make this look different? And one of his people that he was working with came up with the idea. He's like, what if we film it in infrared? That'll give it like a really weird kind of tone. And he started talking about that. And I'm like, that's incredible. Yes, that is art. You guys are like creatives. You have to be artistic to come up with stuff like that. Because who just randomly comes up with cool stuff like that? And then you see it and you're like, damn, that looks so cool.
And it's a risk, because if it looks like garbage, people go, this sucks.
Because they said that once they filmed it, they couldn't flip it back. So it's in infrared. So if they didn't like the way that it looked, they would have had to spend more money to film everything all over again. So that was definitely a huge risk they took, but it paid off for them. It looks incredible. It looks so cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's part of it, is like, you know, it's never just one person. One thing is when you're painting, like, you know, there's different levels of art. If you're a musician and all you do is like play a guitar, all of the work is on you to do so. You know, if you're in a band, it's about all of you collaborating together on something. And movies are very much the same. Movies are a collaborative effort. I have to be able to work with people that, one, I know I can work with well, that we can communicate the same things to each other. And one of the things is like, and Smooth said this, it's important, is like having people around you and having a team around you that has experience or has passions for things and can give you suggestions that you didn't think of before. You go, what if we tried it this way? Or what if we tried it that way? And now if I'm like, no, I don't want to do any of that, you know, maybe my
single-mindedness.
stuff isn't as good. Yeah, you have to know too when to say yes, or when you believe that your artistic vision is the final. You know, as a director, for example, when I directed for the first time, my artistic say on everything is the final decision. It doesn't matter. You know, I'm not saying that to be arrogant. It's just the reality of it. If I say no, this is how we're doing it, everybody on set says okay. You know, and the only other answer is you get mad and walk away. That does sometimes happen in movies, unfortunately, but you build a good team of people, they'll say, you know what? Okay, even if we don't agree, we're going to do it your way. You know, because you have to learn how to be wrong as a filmmaker as well. I was very fortunate to have a team of people around me that had experience, but were hungry to do more and had really cool ideas and great ways of doing things. But also were willing to let me take risks and say, no, I think this is the way it has to happen. You know, at one point, like, I won't say exactly what happened because this would spoil the short, but at one point we had to do a scene. It was a very difficult, very technical way of doing this scene. And it also potentially could have gotten people hurt if we didn't do it correctly. And so, we had our stunt guy Tim, he's awesome, and he was talking to me, my cinematographer was talking to me, and another person was talking to me, and we were all going over this idea together, and everybody had different ideas. And they're like, well, we should do it this way, or we should do it that way, we should do it this way, or on the, you know, blah blah blah. And so we're all talking and throwing it around, and nobody was really agreeing with each other. And then sometimes people would join up and be like, oh yeah, I think this would work really, blah 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 blah. And I was like, okay, stop. This is how we're going to do it. Okay? I'm going to take these suggestions into consideration, but I think this is how we need to do it. And they were like, okay, well, what about blah, blah, blah? I'm like, I think this is the right way. And everybody just went, okay, all right, let's do it this way, you know? And we did it. And fortunately, nobody got hurt. It looked cool. We liked how it all played out. But like, that's how sometimes movies have to work. And it's difficult. And it's risky, because if it sucks, then people can look back and you go, see, if you had listened to me, you know, it wouldn't have been as bad. You know, but now I go, yeah, I should have listened. Great. Now I've learned. Next time, let me try this, or let me remember to try this, or, you know, it's all about that. And that's how art is. Art is about risking. yourself and the expression of your soul for people's response to it. You know, art that sits in your room by yourself that nobody ever sees, is it really art, or is it just, you know, your own enjoyment? That's fine too. There's nothing wrong with that. If you want to paint for yourself and you just fill your house full of your own paintings, you like looking at your own paintings, you don't want anybody else to see it, that's fine too. But if you want to be an artist that's appreciated, you have to put it out for people to see. Unfortunately, that is the risk that you have to take. So
man, I want to say so many things, but like, since we're talking about art and what you just said right now, so if you can see right here my background, it's the shape of Texas. It's a wood board and there's bob wire on it. That's art to me. I saw it at a thrift store. It's like $5. This is art to me. So, you know, I mean, I'm not trying to like downplay like whoever made it, but I liked it. It was unique enough for me to like buy it and show off to it. Even though I don't know who the original creator was, I still like it.
Yeah.
And then, so we were talking about like sound engineering, how important music is in the background. I don't know if anyone's seen it. There's a movie called Zone of Interest. I saw it with a good friend, and that movie is heavily based on sound engineering. I don't know, Mike, if you've seen that movie or not, or heard of it.
Not yet. No.
Okay.
I've heard of it, but I have not seen it.
So if you see it, I would say focus on the sound, because there is a storyline, but the sound engineering takes your reading, because it's German. They're all speaking in German or Polish. I'm not sure what it is, but you're reading the subtitles, and it takes the sound engineering takes your mind away from what you're trying to understand the storyline. So I don't want to I don't want to give away too much of the movie, because I don't want to spoil it for anyone. But yes, like, it's important to have those music because it's captivating. It draws my attention. Now, like, my question would be like, what's your take on, oh my gosh, I had lost my train of thought. I guess like visuals, because you obviously have a team. Safety was one of them, because you were afraid someone was going to get hurt. Now, a few years back, a certain actor accidentally unalived someone on set, Alec Baldwin. Now, what's your take on that? Like, how do you guys butt heads? Because like, it could be a cool shot, it could be cool this. Like, do you guys how do you resolve conflict on that?
That's a really good question too. Well, I will say this: I'm not calling you out. It's up to you. If you want people to see your art, you got to put it out there. But like, the cinematographer I work with is actually really good friends with the lady that was killed on that set.
Oh no, okay.
And we didn't know that. I didn't know that at first, but he, took a risk when we got on set and we were working on the short film. He goes, "Hey, I just guys want you to know, this was a personal friend of mine, and I don't know what you guys' stance are on guns and stuff, but if we ever are in a situation, I just want to be informed of what's going on and blah blah blah, all this stuff." And we had a big talk about that stuff, So part of filmmaking is going, I have an idea, and how can we execute this idea, and then putting around you people that have the expertise to know how to execute that idea. Because sometimes it's like, I want to have this actor walk across the stage like this and talk to the actress this way. That's low risk. But you go like, I want this guy to get picked up and thrown through a wall. How can we make this happen? Well, there's a lot of logistics. What kind of a wall is it? What kind of material is the wall made out of? What's on the other side of that wall? How can we make the, and you have to put people around you that know how to do that safely and know how to execute that safely, or people will get hurt. Unfortunately, on the set of Rust, a lot of the safety people walked away because they said it was an unsafe set. And if my safety people, if I'm working on a film and my safety people go, "Yo, this isn't safe," and they walk away, as a director, as a producer, I'm going to do everything I can to get them to come back and say, "Okay, what are we doing wrong so that we can make sure?" Is there I'll say it this way. Is there a line where you say, there's enough safety here, like you guys are just worrying too much? Probably not, if they know what they're doing. Now, it's one thing if somebody that has no expertise goes, "But what if somebody gets hurt jumping out of this 60-story window with cables attached to them and they fall onto this like padding?" Like, that is a risk we are taking. But if the stunt guys are saying, "Yo, we can do this and we can execute this," and yes, some of us may get hurt, that's a risk, because there are risks. That's why stunt people do what they do, is they know that there's a risk to getting hurt. But if the experts are saying to you, "Hey, we've done all our due diligence, and I think this is as safe as we can be, and I think we can pull this off without anybody getting hurt, then you do it. And if they say, I don't know that this is capable, I don't know that we can do this without somebody getting hurt, and I don't think the risks are worth it, then you have to say, it doesn't matter how much that idea is in your head and creative and how much you want to do it. You don't go, well, we're just going to do it anyways. You go, no, all right, we need to figure out something different. A good example of people that have gotten, like James Cameron's a good example. He did a movie, I think it was called The Abyss, and he almost got people killed on that movie because he was so driven to make this scene look a certain way, and something went wrong, and an actor almost died on set, and those actors won't talk about what happened on set anymore, and they want nothing to do with James Cameron. That, to me, is a level of... That's not a level of genius. That's not you trying to do something. That's you being dangerous. And if somebody died on your set, then like that's on you. That's on James Cameron now as a director, and he should be held accountable for it. It's why Alec Baldwin is being held accountable for what happened on set, because he was in charge, and that's the risk you take. If you want to choose to cut a corner and not put safety first, and somebody gets hurt or somebody dies, on God forbid, or somebody gets maimed or permanently injured, that's on you as a leader. Now, if you know that you dotted all your I's and crossed all your T's, and your safety team says, yo, we're ready to do this, and we can do this, and that's how we're going to do it, and you know that the experts on set say that we're all good to go, and something happens and an accident happens and somebody gets hurt, it's still on the leadership, but at least everybody on set knows, okay, we did everything we could. Sometimes accidents happen. You know, on any given day, you could step out of your house and trip and fall. At any given day, you could put on a pair of 3-inch heels and fall down the steps and almost break your knee. You know, I know only Nomi knows what I'm talking about with that, but like it happens. It's a risk that you take. Now, if somebody had said, yo, Nomi, you probably shouldn't wear those shoes because you might fall down the stairs and break your leg. And you go, I'll be fine. Don't worry about it. And then it happens. Well, they told you. If you go, maybe I'll find smaller heels next time so I don't get hurt. I don't know. You know, there's just ways of mitigating harm, and there is a level of that, and I don't think there's any level of security that I don't think that I don't think there should ever be a cut in corners. There should never be a corner cut on safety on films, because there's too many people and there's too many things involved, and the bigger the production, the more possible somebody does get hurt. So it's a balancing act, but you should always lean on the side of safety and caution, always, because that's how you keep people safe. That's how people get to go home at the end of the day. So,
so you would even say, like, well, obviously accountability is super strong to have on your set and your art, even though like you don't feel like it's going to be like, well, they're crossing the line with me because I know better and I want this to happen. Or would you want someone to be injured and then either make or break that friendship on creative differences, or find a way to redeem yourself?
If I sacrifice somebody's safety to get a shot in a movie, I mean, just to say it this way, I'm an asshole, and I deserve all of the negative feedback that I get. If people don't want to work with me on set anymore because I'm not safe and I'm not safe to work with, then I think that that's well deserved. If somebody wants to walk because they don't think that, even with the experts' recommendations, all that stuff, if an actor says, they tell an actor, yo, no matter what happens, you will not get hurt if you do this thing, and they go, I don't want to do it, and I forced them to do it, and they don't want to work with me ever again, then like, that is the actor's prerogative. You know, if I know that I've taken all the steps that I possibly can to keep somebody safe, and they still don't want to trust that, or they still don't want to do it, that might be a situation where I go, okay, then we need to find somebody else to do this, you know, because you knew, it wasn't like you didn't know what you were signing up for when you got into it. It's one thing if I tell you, hey, you're jumping out of a building today because we just added this scene last night, and they go, I don't want to jump out of a building. You know, it's another thing when you go, we've been planning this and we knew what we were getting into, and we took all the precautions and everything, and you're still not willing to do this, then yeah, that would probably be a situation where you have to say, no, this isn't working, we have to move on, you know, to somebody else. But if I ever, as a leader or any leadership on a movie, sacrifices safety for a cool shot, and that somebody gets hurt, like, they deserve all the backlash that they get. They 100% do, because at the end of the day, people's safety should be paramount on a film set. So, yeah.
Dude,
I don't know if that answers your question or not.
No, it answers my question, because it gives me more of like a broader like visual on what your perspective is on a filmmaker, as a filmmaker, and wanting to create a piece of art but also valuing the people's safety, the integrity of each other on whatever creative outlet that they're producing for your art. So we can, because film industry, I have no hand in say in anything. I've never experienced that, but you're this close as I can ever get to like talking about something on set, something that you see that I don't see, but you're giving me that visual. So yes, you're painting the picture for me very well, is what I'm saying.
Oh, thank you. Because I don't know how to paint, so I'm just
Well,
reiterating that when Tabitha wants me to come on her show and I draw stick figures, I don't know how to paint. I'm not good at art.
That can change in one stream with Tabitha. She's really great. But ladies, I don't know if there's any other questions, last thoughts before we move on with Mike on this fire of a topic. I didn't know like how much.
Forgive me if I'm rambling. I know I can talk.
No, we love to hear it. I'm living for it, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we got Tabitha. See, she'll teach you.
All right.
She knows how to paint with the colors of the wind.
There you go. Yeah.
Is she Gollum or Pocahontas? Because now I'm just confused.
I know.
She's arguing with herself now, Rachel.
Tabitha's arguing with herself in the chat.
So she won the argument.
Yeah, guys, definitely. If you guys are not following Epic Mike and Josiah and Epic Verse, definitely go follow them. And yes.
I appreciate that very much.
So when are we gonna get?
That's a good question.
Little snippet of something.
Very soon. We've been working on a teaser for our Viking short. We're putting together. I know we already had a little bit of a teaser, but like we're almost done with the editing and stuff. So we're working on like a final trailer for it, kind of like what we did with Reflection. It'll be done soon. I can't say when we're going to release it yet because I'm not 100% sure. What I will do, and I've announced this, I've told people this already because a lot of people are like, I know people are chomping at the bit to get this done. We really wanted to try to launch earlier this year, and we made a very, very executive big decision to reshoot a couple of our short films. We had some like big personnel changes and stuff like that, and as we were expanding and we realized that like 2 of the short films that we had kind of worked on, we needed to do reshoots and put some more work into, and we realized cost effectively it was better just to reshoot them, but that set our timeline back quite a bit because it's a lot of scheduling and a lot of work. So I am confident it'll happen in 2024. I will say that for sure. I am like very confident it will happen this year, but we were hoping to launch earlier this year, and it's probably going to be later, unfortunately. It sucks. I know people hate waiting. I hate waiting because I want to get this stuff out to you guys. I want you guys to be able to enjoy it and watch it all. But I promise once I have more stuff to share and once we're ready to like officially launch as a company, I'm going everywhere. I'm going on everybody's show. I'm going to scream about it and talk about it. I'll show you guys whatever you want to look at, and we'll talk about things, and I'll give you, as much as I can. I promise you guys, it'll be worth the wait. We're just trying to do our best right now that we can, and it's a lot. It's been a big learning experience. I have learned a lot behind the scenes, and the scary part, but the exciting part is for everything that I've learned and everything that we've done right, we have so much more to learn. There's so much more out there. We got done shooting these shorts, some of the shorts that we've done, and my buddy Chaz, who's worked in the industry for like 20 years, he goes, "Congratulations, you are now level 0." And I was like, "Holy crap, we're level 0 now?" Like, wow. And he's like, "Yeah, but that's a good thing because a lot of people never even get to level 0. There's a lot of people out there that just will make bad movies, and they're okay with it, and they don't care about growing or making good stuff." So, yeah, not 2047. Definitely not 2047.
And then one more question too. I know you said that you guys didn't want to go like the crowdfunding direction, but if anybody wants to donate anything to you guys, is there going to be something on the website that you guys are going to add, or is there any way somebody can
like a Patreon or something like that?
Yeah.
So there's like the way it's broken right now, in the way we talk about it right now. If you want to support Epicverse in any way, just me and Josiah both have links to donate. We are putting all of our resources in the Epicverse. So like if you support us as creators, because that was kind of why we did what we did. Josiah has his channel. I have my channel. We have the Epicverse channel, all of that stuff. Any of those things that you support goes in our pockets, and then we funnel it right back into Epicverse, because that's what we're doing with all of our resources. When the official website launches, we have a really big announcement with that I cannot share because it'll be like a huge spoiler. But there will be a place on the website where you can just donate. There'll be a place where you can buy merch. We're gonna have physical copies of things, stuff like that. I can't explain how all that's gonna work yet because that's also kind of a big spoiler. But we're gonna have places where you can support us as much as you want to, and we're gonna have some like cool packages and stuff. Some big ones, like we have some really like big ticket items that are like, oh my gosh, really? And then we also have other things. But at the end of the day, yeah, we'll give you guys lots of opportunities to support us because we definitely want your money. But we also want to make sure that it's worth it for you guys. Like you're like, yo, I get to watch this, I get to enjoy these things, but also I get to get an exclusive t-shirt, or I get to get an exclusive poster, or whatever it is that we have in the packages that we're kind of working on, stuff like that. So yeah, that'll all be on the website. It'll be very clear where it is on the website. If you go look at epicverse.tv right now, it is a placeholder website. That is not the final product. You can click on Reflection. It'll take you to the link in the YouTube channel. When the Blood and Water teaser is ready, it'll be the same thing. As we get trailers for all of these projects and teasers for all these projects, we'll link them. But when the real website's ready to go live, you guys will be like, it's a totally different website. You guys will be shocked. I'm shocked at how good it looks. So,
ooh, I can't wait.
I know.
Yeah.
So yes, guys, whenever all of this happens, make sure everyone is supporting. Remember, we're always talking about how we need new creators, especially people that are in the space who are passionate about these things. So make sure that you're supporting. Like I said, that you're following everybody, so that way whenever it launches and they let us know what's going on, that we're able to share it out to as many people as possible.
Mm-hmm. Because this is the one thing about the community this fellowship that I love, that we get to show and promote what your artwork is. Like, we just want to like hang out with people and like, hey, if you're passionate about something, let's hear it.
Yeah.
If there's a show that's peeving you, or there's a show that you like, let's talk about it. Tell me about it. Because a little bit about me, Mike. I was severely I was homeschooled, and I was severely protected from anything outside. But like, I didn't grow up with like the cool things or the cool shows and stuff like that. So that's why I'm like, oh, well, tell me more about it, because I have no knowledge of it.
I have a lot of homeschool friends, so I understand. Yeah,
there's a lot of films out there that I haven't seen, but people will get on me like, well, why haven't you seen it? It's like, I haven't gotten around to it, and I wasn't allowed to watch it.
Just tell them you're homeschooled. If they don't understand, then I will never judge somebody that says, I'm like, how have you not seen this movie? And you go, I was homeschooled. I'll be like, I get it. Yeah, I was homeschooled for a little bit. I know a lot of homeschool people, and I understand, when you have parents that want to keep you safe, and they're just doing the best that they can do. Sometimes sometimes maybe they overdo it, a little bit. But as you get older, and you go like, I'm an adult now. I can pick and choose what I want to watch because and you can, sometimes. Be honest, it would be nice to be able to go back and like enjoy some of these things. Like like now I have to kind of live vicariously through my children when they watch like Star Wars, and then sometimes I don't get the endorphin hit that I was hoping when my kid watches Star Wars. They go, "This is boring," and I'm like, "What do you mean it's boring? It's cool, okay?
That's what I grew up on. This is what made me."
Yeah,
but I guess I have a question for you, Mike. So now that like you are a parent, what you watched growing up. What are your concerns now, being as a parent, what's out there, what's Disney's producing, or just people producing for their own agenda, their own malice into it? Like, what are your takes, your thoughts, and how to prevent, your suggestions on keeping your family safe?
Yeah, I think if you're a parent, you should always know what kind of media your kids are consuming. There's this weird thing that has crept in lately about like kids' agency and their privacy, and like, okay, listen, I mean this in a good way. Like, children definitely should have agency. I let my daughter pick out what clothes she wears to school. Do I sometimes intervene and be like, you cannot wear galoshes and a jacket because it is 85 degrees outside? Like, you need to wear like a t-shirt because it's really hot? Yes. Or no, you cannot go out in a t-shirt and leggings because it is negative 10 degrees outside. Like, put something warmer on. That does happen. That is my job as a parent, is to help my child who does not have the capability to make certain judgments for themselves make good decisions. But kids don't always know that they're susceptible to things. They're susceptible to coercion and things like that. You know, they're like birds. They like shiny things. And I think nowadays, especially, there's definitely a drive to push this attitude. Well, we're actually learning it now in media that we grew up with. So like, it's recently come out that a lot of like shows on Nickelodeon and a lot of shows on the Disney Channel from when we were kids were pushing agendas about looking at parents like they were dumb. I remember my mom being like, I don't like the way that they talk to their parents. You know, now I grew up in a strict home, and I grew up in a and I mean this you know, it'll hit differently for different people. I grew up in a black household, and so like disrespecting your parents was not going to be a thing. Like you were gonna get, somebody was gonna punch you in the face if you talked bad to your parents or whatever. Maybe not punch in the face, but well, my mom did punch me.
You get the chancla in my household.
Yeah, the chancla, or like, because if you knew if you mouthed off, like it wasn't a chancla, it was gonna be like a stick or something. Like the crime fit the punishment sometimes. But like, you grew up learning how to respect adults. You grew up learning to speak to your parents respectfully, to treat adults with respect, to treat other people with respect. There was a lot of TV shows where kids were screaming at their parents and mouthing off to their parents and stuff, and that was definitely, now it's been exposed, that was an agenda that people had to kind of subvert the way that we look at parenting and look at adulting. So some of us grew up thinking, well, you know, I should my kid can talk to me any way they want to, and I'm like, no. Yeah, I paddle belt. Yeah, I had a lot of paddles. I got a lot of spankings as a kid.
I don't know about the soap thing.
Yeah, some parents did the soap thing. My mom never did that.
That's
she was just like, you're just getting a spanking. It all matters. The spanking covers everything, I guess. I was like, all right, you know. But like, it's you know what? I didn't spank my I don't really like spank my kids. But that's a choice that I made as an adult. But like, I also am very involved in what my kids are watching, and I don't let my kids watch things alone without any kind of supervision, because I don't know what's in the things. I need to know what's going on with the storylines and the themes. I need to be able to watch and partake in what's going on. Sometimes I don't want to watch like you know, a Disney show. My mom bit my finger. My mom punched me in the shoulder one time for being mouthy, but I was like a high schooler and I kind of deserved it. But like, yeah, there's like a oh yeah, you got bit to teach you not to bite. Yeah, that does happen.
Oh
That's
no, Tabitha was a biter.
Yeah,
Tabitha was a biter. Yeah, that makes sense. Actually. Yeah, I met Tabitha and MegaCon. That makes sense.
And now she pushes.
Now she pushes people down the steps instead of biting people. Yeah. But like, there's just you need to be involved in your kids' lives. You need to know what kind of media they're consuming. You need to know what the message of that media is. You can't. There for every. I'll use the term for lack of a better term. Like, for every liberal parent out there that says, Timmy, don't talk bad to me, you know, go into timeout. And then, you know, there's also a conservative parent that is screaming at their kid not to watch The Jungle Book because Baloo's walking around with no clothes on. I'm like, he's a bear. What are you talking about? Like, you know, there's a line as parents, and you never want to be in extremes are never good, but there should be a balance to allowing your kids to express themselves and partake in things and learn about things and enjoy things. And there also needs to be a balance of knowing that you have to protect your kids from certain things. That not every movie, not every kid show is safe for a child to just watch. And putting them in front of a TV or putting them on the internet, especially, social media is dangerous for children. There are very quick ways to get into very dangerous parts of the internet, you know, with by accident. You know, things like ad blockers and website blockers and porn blockers are important now. They're necessities. When we were growing up, maybe they weren't as necessary, you know, but they are now, especially because of how easy it can be. So, yeah. Thank my parents today for finishing with this. Funny. But even like back in the day, well, even with that kind of, like, even wrestling, I know people are like, yo, wrestling, like, that could teach kids bad things. But if you're involved and you go, hey, I want you to see something. Like, if I let my kids watch a movie and we explain to them, hey, remember, this guy's the bad guy and here's why he's the bad guy. Things like that. You know, I mean, there's just a lot of ways of communicating things so that when they're adults, they can make decisions for themselves. I didn't watch Harry Potter when I was a kid. I wasn't allowed to. My mom didn't want me to have anything to do with it. When I was an adult, I decided I wanted to watch it and check it out for myself. I liked it a lot, you know, but I don't judge my mom for being a parent going, I didn't feel comfortable with you watching that. There's certain things I don't feel comfortable with my kids watching, you know? There's certain things that I watched as a kid. And I was like, why did I ever get like Land Before Time? I was like, what are you doing, Mom? Like, this is terrifying.
Or All
but I
Dogs Go
watched-
to Heaven.
All Dogs Go to Heaven? I was like, yo, this is murder. Like, but like now I can watch
The
those
Great
movies
Mouse
with my
Detective.
kids. Oh,
Yes, Fievel Goes West.
Fievel Goes West. Like,
Oh.
but now I watch it with my kids
Tale.
and I go, hey, I'm going to be here with you when you watch this so we can talk about it. Let's talk about how this made you feel. Let's talk about what happened here and why it happened. Things like that. You know, it's important to be involved in your kids' lives because more than anything, people that are in entertainment and people that are bad faith in entertainment, I should say, because there are good people in entertainment as well. Okay. But most people that are in entertainment that are bad faith want you to not be involved in what your kids are watching. They want you to go away. They want it to be annoying and obnoxious and you have nothing to do with it. And then you leave your kids in front of it. And then the next thing you know, they're teaching your kids things like, you know, it's okay if your parents aren't happy with you. You can run away. It's safe to do things like this. It's good to talk back to your parents. It's good to not, you know, it just...
That won't fly in my house. I'm going to tell you that.
Yeah.
You know, you have to be ever vigilant.
Yeah, no,
children.
legit. I had a best friend homeschool. She's still my best friend, but we were both homeschooled together.
Yeah.
Her little sister, we loved watching iCarly, but her little sister started getting the behaviors of Sam, like her best friend in the show.
Yeah.
The parents decided no more iCarly because now her little sister was acting out in the behaviors.
Yeah. Because kids emulate what they know, you know? Yeah, there has to be, it's important, you know? I know a lot of people saying like Neverending Story. A Neverending Story is brutal, but I'm going to be honest, like, it kind of taught us loss. It was like our first thing. I still get messed up. That movie, oh, bro, that's brutal. You know, but that's the other thing too. If you're imagining a child by yourself and you watch, Old Yeller or Neverending Story for the first time versus when your parents are there. And they can explain to you why it's hard and why it sucks. Nobody likes loss, but we lose people in real life. It taught us how to process things. We had Mr. Rogers, like growing up, teaching us about death and teaching us about divorce and teaching us about these really difficult subjects, stuff like that. But like parents need to be there too. TV cannot educate your children on how the world works. Parents do. And sometimes art can influence and educate your kids on a theme better than a way you can necessarily express it. Some people are not good with words, but you can say, hey, I know how this made you feel. Here's why you felt that way. Because it's not good to hurt people. Or it's not, when, you know, like, Artex is a good example of like even allegories for self-deletion. Hey, he gave up and it was sad. And look how sad it made his friends. Like, you know, if you feel like giving up, like remember to reach out to people. There's a lot of ways to do things, you know, but yeah, there's a balance. Some parents were more extreme about it than others, but at the end of the day, your parents tried to do the best that they could. A lot of parents do. There are some bad parents that don't. But there are some parents that really are just trying to do the best that they can. And all you can do from that is as an adult go, okay, cool. I'll take the best lessons I can from what I learned as from my parents, and I'll craft the best life I can with that. So, yeah. Yep. Dragonheart's good.
Oh,
Yeah.
Love that movie.
Yeah.
Now, okay. I don't know if any other girls, you guys have any thoughts on this, because man, we're bringing out our emotional trauma that we experienced as kids. Because Land Before Time definitely wrecked me as a kid.
Yeah, Don Bluth was not playing games.
Yeah, he was not kidding on that one.
Never-ending story.
Man, I did not have that experience as a kid. Like, I read a lot of books. My brother and I read a lot of books as kids. I mean, I picked up The Hobbit when I was like 9, I think. So I just did a lot of reading, but my parents never policed. Like, we didn't have TV growing up. We had a television set and we could play movies. So, you know, VCR, and then eventually DVDs. But I didn't have my parents policing TV. And so I don't know if anyone knows the I don't know if it was a trilogy or I think they made 4 of them. The franchise Species.
Oh yeah.
Very, very sexually charged movies.
Yeah.
And I watched them when I was like 7 or 8.
Dang.
So I didn't have any policing of movies when I was a kid, but I think I turned out okay. for the most part. But I do think parents need to be involved. They need to help their kids. Like, you're not going to just sit your kid in front of a TV and let them watch Brave Little Toaster on their own when they're like 5 or Never Ending Story or something like that. You can let them watch it, but you need to be there with the kid and let them know, by the way, this is just a movie. Everyone's fine. They didn't actually kill a horse. It's okay. But also like talk your kids through what the messages are. So like maybe it introduces loss and you talk with your kids about that. So I do think there is a fine line between being completely negligent and letting your kids do whatever the heck they want and being, completely policing everything your kid does.
100%.
So there's a line between being supportive, being a guiding force in your kid's life, but still letting them make mistakes. If they fall down at the playscape, don't, run over sobbing or just completely ignore them. Just, let them pick themselves up. They can put a Band-Aid on their knee and just keep running around.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Mike. What were you saying?
No, I was just agreeing. It was good. It's very good.
Nope. I agree with Rachel on that.
Yeah. Man, I'm liking how the chat are just like putting all like the old school movies like that traumatized them.
So many great movies.
They're all great movies. I'm not
because
they're traumatic doesn't mean they're not great.
Yeah. So like I said, my best friend, my homeschooled best friend growing up, she was allowed to watch those movies. I wasn't. So I remember seeing the Dark Crystal Labyrinth at her house. I was like, oh my gosh. So this like made me scared. And I would spend the night. I was like, oh my God, what if the Goblin King was gonna get me?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so
I think this is what this generation's missing though, that how they try to take all of the trauma and all of that stuff out of media nowadays. And I think you need that. You know how they try to like change stories and, oh no, we're going to take this aspect out of it because it's too sad. We can't deal with it. And it's like, no, but that's how people grow. We saw all of these movies when we were little, and we had our parents there to ask questions too and to kind of guide us into these experiences before something happens to you that's super traumatic and you don't know how to deal with it. You have to start learning how to have those experiences from the time that you're children, because I don't understand editing out all of these things for kids nowadays that, oh no, you're gonna get triggered and you're gonna get like, no, there's a lot of bad things that happen to people every single day, and you need to know about this stuff to know how to deal with it and how to cope with it. I think that's why there's so many adults now that don't know how to function in the real world because they don't know how to cope with all of these things.
Yeah.
And that plays a big part of it.
One of my favorite animated movies is The Lion King. There's a very traumatic scene.
Yes. Oh my God.
Very traumatic scene. And it's about, basically the main character Simba having to get over that and realizing he needs to face his fears and not be a coward and actually fight for his people. And
because like how many kids experience a parental loss when they're children? They have these things to relate to, and if you deny them all of these things, how do you cope with it when you get older, when all of these things, God forbid, happen to you? But when they do, you have something to relate it to that you've seen or experienced and gone through. That's why, we need to leave that stuff alone in media. Kids need to see that kind of stuff. These are experiences that we do need. You can't what's the right word for it? Make everything
you can't coddle them.
You can't coddle them. Yes. And I can relate to that because that's what my parents did. And here's the thing, I'm first generation here. My parents are from Mexico. So I wouldn't say coddling, but they did their best to protect me from whatever evils were here because they didn't know anything of like American culture or TV shows, what's currently popular. And, they want to protect us and they had their best interest in making sure like we weren't scared or we saw something dirty. I know, Mags, your favorite anime is Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon was absolutely forbidden in our house because my parents were afraid of the Japanese arts, like the anime art style. they thought it was something like sneaky, spiritual wise, to corrupt the kids. And as an adult, I've seen a couple of episodes of Sailor Moon. It's like, okay, like, I can see why my parents were concerned about it back then, but like me as an adult, I don't see that element of what they were afraid of. And then I love Hayao Miyazaki's artwork. So my parents, even to this day, like they're weary about it, but I got them to watch The Secret Life of Arietti. My dad liked it. And he's like, oh, I was afraid of this artwork for a while until, you know, I saw the story. I liked it. So it's not bad. So it's really just pick and choosing of like what you believe is going to be good and beneficial for you in the long run.
100%.
Yeah.
Very well said.
Yeah, because I would like to be a parent someday. So, you know, I want to hear like your takes on it, Mike, because you're obviously living that right now. So like, you know, pointers, what I could do. And then me as an adult, like, yeah, of course I would like to invest in what's out there and see if it's good for my future family.
Yeah.
I can show that to them.
Absolutely. And yeah, there's definitely some, you know, I mean, and there's the beautiful thing about having the internet is that we do have like websites like oh man, I don't remember what the one is. Let me see here. I don't remember what the name of the web. Common Sense Media. You have like Common Sense Media. There's other websites like that too, where they just kind of explain to you, yo, like there's adult material in here. You can go, hey, is the movie safe for kids? And they can tell you, hey, you know, on this rating scale, here's what we found in this. You put in Game of Thrones, is Game of Thrones safe to kids? It'll be like, it's extremely violent, and there's a ton of sexual content, and there's swearing. Probably not, you know, but like, then you can make it an informed decision. There are people that have put in work to give you the education that you might need as a parent to keep up with things, where you can go, hey, is this in a film? And sometimes they even point out, that's the best thing. I'm definitely not a dame, sorry. I do have long hair. I have a man bun, if that counts.
Close enough.
Yeah,
We'll take it.
Yeah, but like there are people that have put in the work to be able to inform people, and I think nowadays there's no excuse not to be informed as a parent, to say, hey, what's going on, you know, because even things that, you know, even there are always parents that can relate to different situations and different things. If you have a real big problem with, like, let's say magic in movies, you think, I don't know, magic scares me, I don't want anything to do with it, then you can go look up movies and go, does this have magic in it? What's the magic like? There are things and ways to be educated on movies and know exactly what's going on as a parent, so that you can protect your kids from things you think they need to be protected from. So
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I believe what Mr. Tickletrunk said, like each kid also matures at a different rate. So it's up to the parent to know their child and what's appropriate. So I highly agree with that too, because I know my brother who is older and my sister who's younger, we had definitely different levels of maturity in like what made us feel uncomfortable or what made us feel comfortable, or, you know, it was a scary, vulnerable situation for each of us. So you have to know your child, what they're comfortable with. Yeah. Because I don't know if anyone remembers this cartoon. It's back in the 80s, but Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. I absolutely hated that cartoon. Like, I don't know what it was that peeved me, but my parent, like, I just would freak out whenever it came on, but my brother and sister liked it. So, but I would just be in a different room doing my own thing. And I don't know what really triggered me about that cartoon, but I was not happy about it. So it's just knowing your kids, I guess. I wouldn't, not persona. Well, I guess a persona, but like more of.
Yeah, just knowing what they like and what they don't, knowing what makes them tick. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which any parent should be able to know what their kids' strengths are, or what they do or don't like about things, you know?
Strengths, yes. Yeah. Oh, I forgot that there was a live action movie.
Yeah, there was. I think there are a couple, actually. Yeah.
Well, I hate it enough where I didn't care to watch it or even care to even know about it. But I'm going to do my best to segue our moderator in our chat, and we are bringing in Smooth the DJ, and I know he has quite a few. He's an artistic person as well, and he had a couple of things to share, and that's why I wanted to bring him on here. And then welcome, Smooth, to Dames and Dorks.
Welcome. Hi. Yeah, I want to make this brief because I don't want to take away the spotlight from the ladies, of course, but I have a little surprise for the ladies because I spent about 52 hours on these. So if you want to put me up on full screen.
Since we're talking about art, we got something coming up right here.
Yes. So like I said, I spent about 52 hours on these. So brace yourselves. This might get a bit emotional. So this is Dr. Rachel.
my god! Whoa!
Oh my
That's
god, I love
amazing.
that.
It's with pencils and markers.
Pencils and markers,
Dang.
okay.
That is
I redid
awesome.
this. Not gonna lie, I redid this like 6 times to get to this point.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
So-
smooth!
That's number 1. So, Max,
Oh,
Very cool.
I guess you recognize that one.
That's my sunglasses.
Yeah.
I had to. Sorry, I had to.
I
love
love
it.
glasses.
That's so
I love
cool.
it.
With glasses.
Oh my
Lily?
gosh.
Yeah.
Oh
Look
my
at
Wow.
God! Oh my
I love her eyes.
I love the eyes.
And last but
Lily.
not least, you know who's coming.
There she is.
That's so
There she is.
cool.
My eyebrows look great.
Oh my gosh.
Again, for those who, I'll show them again one more time.
Ah.
Dr. Rachel.
God, I
Rachel
wish
is
my hair
great.
that looked that good in real life.
I loved it. I love it.
Oh,
Again?
yeah,
So
my
cool.
sunglasses.
Max.
I just had to. It looked so funny. I was like, yeah, I need to do that one. So again, one more time. Lily.
Oh my god.
I love
go.
the
Very
eyes.
awesome.
I love
And
it.
last but not
Mhm.
least, one more time. There you go.
That is so
So,
rad.
That's for you.
Awesome.
Dude,
Oh
That's
my
thank you so much.
That is so awesome.
Oh
Thank
my
you, Smoo.
gosh, dude. Smoo, oh my gosh. Like, well, thank you so much for being on this, like being you. And obviously, like, this was such a good show that we had creative outlets and talking about it. Like, what inspires you before we end our show? Like, what little bits can you give us? Or what you've learned?
What inspires me? Well, see, the thing for me is like these little artworks that I just did. Well, little is a bit exaggerated, but you know what I mean. It's making people happy. I just want to spread joy to people, and I just want to see people smile when I make something for them, and that's why I did it. You know, and that's just the drive that I have, and art is a very important thing for me because it helps me come down from a long day of work, essentially. Or if I have a very stressful phase in my life, I just sit down and just zone out. It is just my way of like processing things in a way, and it's a good way of just like forgetting about the stressful things that go on in the world. Or if I see something upsetting on social media, or if something really pissed me off, I'll just sit down and just either write something down or just draw, and that's what I just did. And that's my main drive. And then honestly, just witnessing or hearing your reactions was well worth it.
Oh my god.
Dude, no, like yeah, well, we'll keep you on for the rest of the show, Smoo.
Sure.
But oh my gosh, like, thank you so much for just that artwork was just beautiful. Like, everyone has a creative outlet. Everyone, it doesn't have to be filmmaking. It doesn't have to be, sewing for me. But like, obviously, drawing. It can be like a frustration outlet. It can even just be like throwing water balloons and just making water paint on the sidewalk. I see art in that, and then I don't know, whatever. I just like to see shapes in watermarks, so that's just how I like to. Even like staring at clouds.
Yeah,
like that's also artwork. Is some may not see that where I'm coming from on that one, but I'm just wanting to thank everybody who has been in our chats today. Our chat was on fire. I love the questions. I love the conversations we are having. Our panelists who've been great in just communicating. Mike, first and foremost, I'm so glad you joined us and this amazing fire of topics, this show. I think I've learned more talking to you than I've learned like hanging out with Beardo, and that speaks a lot. No, just kidding.
I mean, Beardo does say proficial in other words incorrectly, so yes.
Wow,
yes.
throw Beardo one.
Well, he isn't the only one.
Yeah. But I do have mad love for Beardo as well. But like, no, for real, Mike, I love what you're doing with the Epic Verse. I think you are on the right track, and I think New Hollywood, which is what you are producing with Josiah, is on the rise. We want new things. The world needs new creative outlets. And I think you are doing a great job in doing that and asking good questions, having a team and different perspectives.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I really appreciate you guys having me. I had a lot of fun. You guys asked really tough questions, which is always fun to answer. And I appreciate you guys giving me a place to rant because I can talk a lot. So no, I appreciate it. You guys are awesome. This was a really fun time.
Dude, no, for real. Well, you're always welcome to hang out with us again. But we're gonna go ahead and wind down for our show. Do you want to plug anything before we end it?
I mean, I always have like a million things I'm doing right now, but I definitely will come back. You guys, anytime you want to invite me and I have time to do so. I'm glad I was able to join you guys today. You just check me out on YouTube. I hit over 1,000 subs. I finally just started using YouTube about a month ago, like actually using it. I do a lot of live streaming over there. I have a good time. And then same on Kick. I use like simul stream on there. Keep your eyes on epicverse.tv. We're rocking over there, and like I said, as soon as I have more to talk about, as soon as I have things to share, I'm going everywhere to share everything and talk about it as much as I can. So yeah.
Well, when Epicverse is ready to launch in 2047, no, just kidding.
Yeah.
More like 2077.
Yes,
Yeah.
but if Epicverse is ready to, take full force later this year, dude, feel free to reach out, and we would
100%.
love to, talk the heck out of it, whatever you guys have producing.
Absolutely. I would love that too. So I very much appreciate
Yes,
it.
thank you so much. This is so
Yeah,
This is
dude.
an awesome conversation.
Yeah. Hey, I'm gonna be the first one to tell you this, Mike. This is the longest we've ever had on a show, just because
really?
the longest we've streamed
I should have
because
warned you.
no, this has been
No.
great.
That
Do not apologize for that. We just loved how genuine the conversations were and how flexible you are. Here at Dames and Dorks, we're the type of people like, dude, if you are passionate about something, talk about it. We are here. We're giving you a listening ear with the power of streaming to inform other viewers what you got, what's going on. Like, show us what you see that we don't see. So there's no hate here. We're not on time thing. We're just all about the chills, the vibes, and the hangs.
so
Awesome.
Yeah. So you're always welcome back. But I'll go around the horn. Lily, what do you have going on?
Basically just whatever's happening on Twitter. I'll just post everything on there just because I'm coming out of the whole transitioning out of school into like, oh my gosh, I have a little bit more free time now. But basically just of course Dames and Dorks every Thursday, and then gotta get back into making shorts for Minutes at Espanol, and then
Me too.
make sure that you guys are just checking up on Twitter and see what's going on over there.
And causing fire to Rings of Power.
Yes.
ratioing idiots.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was
Oh, yeah.
amazing. I was like, man, Lily's killing it. And good for her.
Mhm.
Dr. Rachel, what do you got going on?
Nothing much right now. I got a video going up on my channel tomorrow. For all you Fallout fans, I made
Ooh.
which used to be a $1 cheap ass mask of a monkey wearing a baseball cap, and now it's this.
Damn.
So if you want to know how it got there, watch a video. But please check out my channel. I'm really trying to make it grow. All kinds of art stuff, mask transformations, swords, shields, anything I have in mind. I put up there. Anything else I've got going on, I just post about it on Twitter. Whether it's talking about Rings of Power or promoting art stuff or whatever it is, just check there for all the news.
Nice. I'd love to see it. Mags, what do you got going on?
Oh gosh. Well, of course you can usually find me anywhere and everywhere. Usually you can find me on Toxic Femmes when I have the availability to show up on there, on Midnight's Edge, and other places as well. But if you want to make sure to keep track of where I'm going to be, I usually put status updates of live streams I will be on Twitter. So make sure you're following me there. But yeah, I am slowly building back some things in OBS. And I will be putting out a game stream schedule soon. So make sure you keep an eye on that.
That sounds good.
Love it. Smooth, what do you got going?
I do some regular streams every once in a while when I get the chance to do so. I did a stream before this one as well. Usually it's very early for you Americans, so it's like 8 to 9 p.m. UK time for me. I got a stream coming up tomorrow before FNT. Probably a very short one, just playing some random game, or just talking, drawing and talking, or something like that. But other than that, I have not much going on apart from my Twix, where I will post the lovely drawings with a more high resolution camera, so you guys can actually see them better. And that's pretty much it. Subscribe to the ladies and also to Epic Mike. And I want to thank Mike for the great insights that you gave us today. It was really great.
Dude, for real.
Yeah.
Doing my best. So
Yeah, we need to play for 14 again.
Well,
Yes.
you're killing it, Mike. So your best,
Yeah.
I'd say you're absolutely demolishing this game.
I appreciate it.
Sorry,
as for-
Beto, I'm a European. That's just generally saying that.
you got to forgive him. He's from across the pond.
Oh, that's
I'm
okay.
German. I'm German, so that's okay, I guess.
Oh my gosh. But as for me, you can catch me on Twix and YouTube here. I was going to put out a video from the Vegas meetup, but I realized I did not get enough content that I thought I did. So I'm going to do my best to put something out there. But you'll see that on Monday. And I'm also on Midnight's Edge Espanol, and I will get to it because I'm going through a transition through a new job or a new position at work. And you can always catch us here every Thursday for Dames and Dorks. Oh, and tomorrow, I will be doing Buy a Girl a Drink. So it is a drinking stream. So come through. I will be having some friends on. We're going to be having conversations. Untamed Mando, who is one of my good friends here, she will talk again about her arrest that she had a few weeks ago. So that's a story that I cannot get enough hearing about. So feel free to come through. I will be starting at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and it's a come and go stream. And we're just going to, have fun, good hangs, good chats. Yeah. But thank you everyone to the chat who is always, sorry, I just had a brain fart right there. Thank you everyone who was in the chat today and made this stream fun, asking the good questions to Mike. And also thank you again, Mike, for joining us tonight. You can catch us again next week on Dames and Dorks, and we will see you guys soon. And I hope y'all have a good night.